Is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Happy Friday, gang. September 8th, getting down into the nitty gritty of the playoff chase, down the stretch, as they say. Football starting up last night. I didn't play last night. Pretty glad because I probably would have had some Carlos Rodon with that ridiculously terrible start he had. Kind of frustrating with the Yanks kind of getting on a roll, and then the guy that was their big offseason acquisition goes out and blows up like that. But it's kind of been the theme of his year. But hopefully somebody out there made some money last night. Hopefully some people did well with what we talked about on the football show. Hopefully the baseball picks went well as well. You don't want to discard it just because of a bad Carlos Rodon start. We were all over some other things that happened, so hopefully guys did well out there. But small pools for baseball last night, but. I felt like a lot of the stuff we talked about on the football show came to pass. I know I had a bunch of chasers. I was so close to a nice four-way chop at the top of the FanDuel contest. Would have been a solid little six-figure payout to start the season. Missed it by about a point. Needed anything positive out of Amon-Ra at the end of the game there. Probably would have gotten me and my three compatriots who had that same lineup that had him in the projected, both quarterbacks, Blake Bell and Rashee Rice, who we talked about. No, we talked about Bell. No, we talked about Rice, particularly Rice. That was a nice TD for very cheap. But if you had those two guys in your lineup, and that's, I know there's a baseball show, but just to ram that point that we were making yesterday home, if you had those two guys in your lineup on FanDuel last night, those lineups ended up being, by the numbers, they would have been competing against roughly 150 other lineups in a 192,000 contest. Now, it gets extended out a little bit because there is commonality of lineups. There's a limitation to the total combinations. So at the top of the slate, there was one that had the exact same lineup, but Mahomes in the captain spot, that it was tied like 120-something times. My lineups that had Amon-Ra in the captain spot. And then there was a variety of other ones that had that combination. But it was probably cutting down. Oh, shit, I forgot to get water. It was probably cutting down from 192,000 entries that you're competing, 192,000 plus that you're competing against, down to 300. If you can trim the field that significantly with two plays hitting nicely from those value tiers, that's the key to success. So from there, it was just which of the chalky guys fall around it, and did I happen to sort to that lineup, So I consider it a good start to the season. Ended up down slightly on the night, but totally acceptable for the closeness and the competitiveness of the lineups that I had. And so hopefully some of you guys out there, I started out with not talking about my night, but I wanted to say hopefully some of you guys out there took advantage of some of those plays. Football wise, I think I'm gonna punt on doing the show today. I was talking to some folks in Discord, and I want to get your guys' feedback, see whether or not night shows are good for you guys. Like during the week, I realized that I've kind of been hamstringing myself by just trying to cram everything into the afternoons, just out of force of habit, because that's when everything was at Stochastic, where really for football in particular, there's no reason that during the week we couldn't do like an 8 p.m. show if you guys are game. And then that would exist for people to watch kind of whenever they want. My plan is still very much hit the ground running this coming week for week 2 and do the position by position, day by day, quarterbacks on Tuesday, pass catchers on Wednesday, so on and so forth. Not that those don't go really, hand in hand. But I was just so far behind on getting things coordinated, learning some depth chart changes, some of the rookies I had to get up to speed with. And then I didn't think that doing the projections and getting them in publishable form was going to take nearly as long as it did. I was up till about 5 a.m. doing that last night, getting those rankings and projections together. Just because there's so much of, well, my model's got this guy projected at 0.92. Does that mean he's not playing? Does that mean he's low on the depth chart? Does that mean, where does that come in? And then just looking at some consensus information from around the industry, trying to make sure that there was nothing askew in those projections. So it literally took all night. So I'm a little bit shot. And I'm still behind on catching up on the game-by-game aspect of it. I could do a show tonight and just go through, like, reading stats off the board to you guys, but I want to actually make it have value for your time, because we're gonna go, like, 2-3 hours with that show. So I'm probably going to punt that to tomorrow. It'll probably come during the day tomorrow sometime, I think. But then I think definitely next week we'll probably pivot into just doing some of those football shows at night. Go like 8 to 9, 7:30 to 8:30, depending on, after baseball locks. Give me a half hour to take the dog for a walk. I come back, I sit down, and we go and do those shows. So I think that'll probably be how it is. going forward. But for tonight, probably won't end up throwing up a surprise show for tonight, but keep your eyes peeled for tomorrow. What I am going to do tonight is finish off my review of going through the game by game, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to put together the groups and stacks article that's going to include all the group recommendations and the notes, and we'll see where we go as far as how much of the plus 10%, plus 15%, up to on other optimizers. We'll see how much of that I'm able to get into with the groups article, but I want to give you guys something with that and with some notes on it from there. So after this first week, now that I've got it, it was kind of slow the same way with baseball, right? I had to figure out where I was going with baseball, and now we've just got it down to a science as far as how this stuff goes. So same thing with football. We'll be in much better shape next week, but we'll do a Saturday show, and then I think we'll do something Sunday morning to just do like I don't want to steal their name, but a show that's on the air ahead of the contest start. I think that should be the title. The Rotoscouts NFL DFS show that's on the air before the contest starts. I think that should be good. But yeah, we'll do something like that Sunday morning, probably 10 to 11-ish. I'll go longer than that, but if I could give myself an hour, it would be great. All right, let me get into the chat. Let me say hi and everybody here. Let me see who did what in NFL. I saw there was some feedback coming through. At least somebody mentioned something. Let's see what happened. Calvin Dunn's here. Calvin won 300 in football last night. Not bad. Fanatic took down $150. That'll do. Trey came in third in the $1.20 max, $300 in the $1.20 max, $300. Not bad. Shout out to Jake Snails for the Littell pick. It's in the baseball. Not bad, buddy. Congrats to all the winners. It's great. We're gonna get some. I'm confident we're gonna get some in football as we go through these showdown games, especially. But main slate, we're gonna do some damage on some of these main slates too for football. But let's get into this baseball one. We got Larry C's here. Trey is here. We already said hi to Trey, but hi again, Trey. Solid Picks is here. Need a win here for the football bankroll. I like that idea, Solid Picks. Could use the same. Calvin Dunn's here. Ken Woodhouse. Phil Still. Kevin O. Tizzlemane 165. What's happening? It's a little warm in here again, but it is what it is. Hot, nasty, rainy, ugly day out, which reminds me I got to look at the weather. Fanatic reminds me, smash the like button, hit that like, hit the subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, that's the way that you find out when these shows go live. Either that or you got to follow the @rotoscouts Twitter feed or my other one, but follow the @rotoscouts one. If you guys do me a favor, by the way, I asked in the Discord and a lot of people were kind enough to like it. If you go to the @rotoscouts Twitter profile or X profile, there's a pinned tweet, pinned X, what the hell do they call that now? There's a pinned tweet at the top of my Twitter profile for @rotoscouts. It's the link to the full main slate projections. If you guys could retweet that or give it a like just to build up a little engagement, get that one out in front of more eyeballs, I'd appreciate that. Don't ask much. Projections are up on the website, by the way. NFL Week 1 main slate projections for Sunday. Those went up yesterday. Full rankings, position by position, went up yesterday. So we've got rankings for points rankings and value rankings. Just kind of a point per dollar. Give you a little bit of, so it's not just a straight line. This guy's really good. This guy's almost as good. This guy's almost as good as that guy was. Eric McQuarrie took third in the quarter arcade. Should have played in the main contest. Those are frustrating, bud. I know that feeling. But hey, a good finish is a good finish, right? And it's at worst, it's a indicator that you're doing things right. And those are important as well. You want to make sure that you're getting those because you're doing things right. And those are great places to build up a bankroll. Those are great places to get started. A lot of people just try and dive in at higher levels. And, there's a pretty easy way to get cleaned out. Stephen Leibowitz says, don't give in, call it a tweet. I like that. I agree with that, actually. Fanatics asks, anyone on Owner Box yet? Been playing the last 3 nights and I like it. Competition isn't good right now, so get over. I tell you what, I haven't checked it out yet. I did see that the other guys over at Stochastic, I think they have a promo going for it. So go give those guys some love. Use the Stochastic promo, get whatever their offer is and a little bit off, or who knows what the offer is. But yeah, go through their link and check out Owner Box. But the reason that you guys should check it out is not to necessarily help those guys. It's because, exactly like Fanatic said, as people are slow to get onto these sites, sometimes you do get a bunch of sharps jumping on something, but a lot of times you'll just get a lot of casuals playing on it. Like Yahoo is still kind of like that. So it creates opportunity for guys who are sharp on other sites, but kind of, running into the wall with 150 lineup entries from a bunch of pros, where there's, 30 different pros in every tournament. Definitely interesting to jump onto a site like that. But I know nothing about Ownerbox Fanatics, so if you want to share the details of like how it works in the chat, go ahead. With that, I can't believe I left my water in the other room. Steven Leibowitz says up to $500 match over it on, I imagine, a first deposit match through that promo. Look at me, still plugging for Stochastic. Somebody let Tom know. You guys cool with a minute of silence? I wish I could put on some music or something like that. You guys cool with that? Yeah, thanks, Fanatic. That's exactly what I'm going to do. This is the first time I've ever gone off camera during the show. But enjoy the backdrop. Check out the movies. I'll be right back. Cheers, gang. Everybody got to see my torso. Weird. I was thinking that same thing, Phil, if Joker just popped up. If the cat was out, you actually absolutely would have seen him come rocketing underneath the desk and jump up onto the back of this chair. He sleeps on this chair when I'm not using it. And, like, literally, when I come into the office to sit down, he won't move. I have to act like I'm going to sit on him. Or, like, if I pick him up, he'll dig his claws into the side of the chair. Fnatic says there's a lot to explain, bro. I'm still learning it myself. Setup's a little weird at first, choosing players. But is it like straight DFS, or is it like a market? Like, do they do anything unique, or is it just kind of straight DFS, new site? That's just what I'm curious about. With that, let's get into the baseball slate here. Welcome, everybody. Everybody I didn't say hi to. Dennis Forgy's in here. Wishes he had a minute of silence. Obi's here. What's up, Obi-Wan? What's going on, buddy? I heard or I didn't hear, I saw a headline indicating that the latest episode of Ahsoka was pretty good. I didn't get to, I haven't had a minute. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, so I got to check that out. At some point tonight, I'm going to watch that, and I'm going to watch the new episode of Foundation. That might be my 2 hours off in between doing all this NFL content the rest of tonight. I think some of the gang's going to be up all night, though, too. It sounded like some of the folks in Discord were planning on doing a lot of research overnight as well, so hopefully there'll be some good chatter going on in the Discord. Share your thoughts. Jump into the Discord. The more... I know I went on a little bit of a rant yesterday about it, but the more that everybody's in there just talking DFS and talking sports, like, the trolls will shut up, right? And it's not even really trolly in there. But yeah, let's get a little life going, a little strategy conversation going. We already had a couple good, interesting picks and value talk come through the Discord. Take a look at the projections, the rankings. That's the other thing. If you guys spot anything at all in those projections, absolutely, any time of day, ping me in the Discord. Let me know. I've already got to run an update for, just confirmed absences from Friday. Like DJ Shark is confirmed out officially. I was expecting him out, but I left him in the projections. It's going to be a lot of guys like that. So I'm definitely going to need you guys to be my eyeballs on that, or my second through 51st set of eyeballs. 51 folks watching. I appreciate it, gang. Hit the like button. Let's dive into this thing. Start with the run board. A lot of big totals on this one, which is interesting because I think it's kind of an interesting pitching board. But there's some pretty hefty 5+ run totals involved. There's a lot of lowish totals, which is where most of the good pitchers are. So we're really going to be dancing around some popularity with like the Dodgers, like the Blue Jays, the Orioles and the Red Sox will get popular in a game against each other. The Braves, kind of obvious. They're going up against Mitch Keller. Interesting spot. And then the Rangers. I think a lot of these teams are just kind of the lead teams that people like to go to anyway in a lot of cases. You get the Yanks up at 4.7. They're showing a massive number for power in the home run model against Colin Ray, but only like 10th ranked, like mid-board ranked in terms of collective fantasy point projection. So interesting spot for the Yanks. It's also nasty looking right now, so I'm not sure. Let me actually do that. bounce back over here real quick. Let's pull up the old weather. Good thing we started at 4. Oh, I didn't want to give not the advanced weather. I just want the basic, the one with the tweets. Yeah, so it's the Eastern Seaboard that's just kind of nasty, which is at New York, at Philly, at Washington, and at Boston, which is several of those games that I just referenced. Washington is obviously concerning. It seems like storms in the area, kind of like here. It's probably the same system over, over most of those towns. It's basically reading exactly like it looks here, but a little bit lighter in terms of the way that Mr. Roth over here rates his weather. So those are a little less threatening. My concern with Washington, though, is start of a weekend series. They are quick trigger to delay, to postpone. So that's the one that seems dicey in terms of what the team might do if it's kind of up in the air. The New York game seems like it's going right around first pitch, but Roth seems to think it's going to clear and play. I'd be concerned if I was going to the game. Like, I'd be planning on getting wet. But given that forecast, I'd probably go to the game if I was going tonight. It doesn't look nice outside. It got all dark and green and started to thunder and rain, and I've seen a few flashes of lightning. So that's not good with the game. But the game's, 3 hours off. Boston seems fine. Philly probably gets the same mess as Washington, but a little bit later, and they're a little bit more emboldened to play most of the time. Miami at Philly, big division game, kind of an interesting spot. So I think that one goes, and it seems like Roth seems to think that it maybe delays and then finishes either way. I literally read the end of his note there, and I didn't mean to. I try and paraphrase as best I can, so I'm not just going to this guy's content. But he's the best in the business for a reason, as I've said most of the time. For your actual weather needs, just follow Kevin Roth from RG. He's good. Trey says 45 minutes from Philly Stadium. It's sunny and warm, but humid. That could describe this room right now. A little warm and humid. Got some back sweat going on like crazy. Woo. Obi-Wan says, hope you all wasn't on Tony last night. I didn't have much of him. We talked about him during the show, and the thing that got me was the limited volume that he was highly efficient on last year, but it was really limited, like the total target. So I thought everybody was really over-exaggerating the situation, and I've seen that guy drop balls before. So I'm not saying I was here predicting that he would have all those drops and just have that bad a game, but he was a limited factor in my in the way that we projected it out and talking about it. So yeah, I didn't have too much of him. I had some. He was definitely involved, but I was lower on him than a lot of the other guys. I ended up with like 15% Rashee Rice. I ended up with like 13%. Is FanDuel 13%? I think of Bell, and just the spread across the other guys. And didn't have too much Tony. The one that really killed me was that late Montgomery touchdown. That snuck by like a point. That snuck like whatever the number of lineups that won came in second. So it pushed down the 100 and change stack that was ahead of me, the train that was ahead of me. So my best lineup ended up finishing in like 150th or something like that. But it was technically like the third highest score on the board. It's weird how that works for Showdown. But again, that's why I was like, good night. All right, let's get into this thing. So, like I said, interesting pitching board. It's not exactly shallow. It's a pretty tall summit, pretty broad middle. I don't dislike this pitching slate by any means. Kodai Senga up at the top, going up against the high strikeout Twins. Plenty of strikeout upside there. Kyle Harrison, premium lefty kid, had a really rough outing the last time out. Gave up 4 home runs against the Padres, but he gets the best matchup in baseball as a lefty against the Rockies, and he's a high strikeout option. So I really, really like this spot. I said it in the Discord earlier. This might be one of my favorite pitching spots of the entire season. 8,600, 9,000 is major upside there. Little bit of downside coming through in the model, but it's really only because of the power that he allowed in that weird one in that outing last time. Kind of skewed his numbers. It'll be brief while that happens, but there was a little bit coming through for the Rockies side of it, but I love the spot for Kyle Harrison. I expect most people in the industry do. I think he's going to probably get popular given the very, very good pricing. I'm sure he's projected similarly around the industry. So I don't think we're on to something here, obviously, but it's a very, very good overall spot. Hunter Brown, little bit of warts recently. Don't fully trust it, but he's correctly priced for how he's pitched on the season. For the matchup, I like the spot here for Hunter Brown, enough to have a fair share of him as a mix-in at worst. Jordan Montgomery, great matchup against Oakland. Clunker the last time out, but overall an effective enough pitcher. Bryce Elder, just kind of meh, kind of a guy. Doesn't give you huge results most of the time. This is, the floor isn't far below this, and the ceiling isn't far above this with Bryce Elder. Just kind of is what it is right there in the middle, where like these guys, especially these two guys, have pretty high ceilings. Brown's got an okay ceiling. Montgomery's another guy with not the greatest ceiling, but the Athletics tend to help ceilings a little bit, particularly with lefties on the mound. They lose some of their better hitters, some of their better run creators and on-base people. So I think Monty's got a path to success. Kikuchi, I never like getting to Kikuchi when he projects well. You guys know that, given all the contact that he gives up. But we'll have some. It's a okay enough matchup against Kansas City. He projects out fairly well. The price is right. Blake Snell against Houston. The projection's there. The performances have been there. But there's teams and then there's teams. Houston is elite at not striking out against lefties. He's an elite strikeout artist. Houston's good at drawing walks. He's really inefficient with his walks, but tends to pitch through it and not get burnt by it because he's such a good strikeout artist. That one's tough, especially at price, 10-6, 10-8, going up against the Astros for Blake Snell. That's a challenging spot. I'm not sure how much I get to given the projection and price differential between him and the four guys between him and Kodai Senga up at the top. And he doesn't really project competitively with Senga, who's only 200 more. So Snell might fall by the wayside a little bit. If he's doing that in public ownership, though, I think that's justification for grabbing some. We'll talk about this again when we get to him, and I don't want to spend too much time just looking at the pitching board. Chris Sanchez against Miami, interesting option, projects in the middle for a middle price. Good pitcher. I like that spot a little bit. Emmett Sheehan, middling projection, middling price. Kind of dead center in the board there. I think that's a usable part. Washington's kind of low strikeout. We'll look at it in a minute, but the price is right at least. I think he's a very good value play. Very solid SP2 option on the DK slate. So there's a little bit of upside there for Sheehan. Griff Canning, assuming he actually pitches this time. He's high priced. Cleveland's also low strikeout. I don't love the spot, but it projects okay. From the middle of the board, perfectly fine. Probably better for the money on DK. Jody Perez, pretty good upside, high ceiling for strikeouts, 94.88, correctly priced, correctly projected in that middle range in the spot against the Phillies here. Not sure how deep he ends up working into the game. Mitch Keller's got the Braves. Paul Blackburn against the Rangers. A pitcher that I like going to in value spots. He's typically in that like mid-level value pricing, but the Rangers are not exactly a team I love to tangle with my value pitchers. Blackburn's got the talent to put up a good start. They haven't exactly been elite over the last month and change, but I think there's reason to fear the Rangers still. Kyle Bradish against the Red Sox, pricey. Given how he projects, given that it's the Red Sox in Fenway, I don't love that spot for Bradish. A pitcher that we have liked through the season. Logan Allen, kind of a similar story, but he's a lot cheaper. So I think he's at least on the not value board because he's like a mid-level guy in the mid-8s, but I think he's on that mid-range board for a few shares. Ty Black, I don't really like here. Mackenzie Gore, tough spot. Luis Severino, no. Bottom of the board, pretty much no. So let's get into the game by game. Probably got this lineup. Nope. We got a few other ones dropped. There's Jake. Jake says, appreciates Trey's shout out for that recommendation. That Castillo and Littell pairing was the nuts for pitching. Awesome. Glad it didn't play. Dennis Ford wants to know who Po DGen Stoner's sticky, icky, cheap pitcher of the day is. What's up, Lone Wolf? D's here. Jake Swale says, if I would have played Bell over McKinnon, I would have been $500,000 richer. That's a tough one. But it's always, that's a tough click to make. Jimmy James. What's up, Jimmy James? If I would have played Rice instead of Moore. Talked about liking that Rice spot. All right. Let's take a look here. Colin Ray, think it's a very targetable spot. Obviously, we've got a monster lurking in Aaron Judge in the middle of the lineup there with a 25 in the home run model. You've got a ton of power for Jason Dominguez, who I made the home run pick of the day because, hey, sometimes you got to just be a home run and a sucker. Gleyber Torres, Austin Wells hitting fifth. No Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup is definitely a power downgrade, but there's plenty of power available. Colin Ray giving up a 4.75% home run rate, 90.3 miles an hour of exit velo, 42.4% hard hits, and he's pitching in Yankee Stadium. He only strikes out 20.6%. He's got a 4.45 xFIP under his 5.07 ERA, so a half run better, but a 1.24 whip gives up too many opportunities. 7.2% walks isn't terrible. But the whip, there's too many base hits. There's going to be too many opportunities for these Yankees to actually deliver on the home run ball. Luis Severino, I also don't really think is playable. That was all to say that Colin Ray not really playable, doesn't really project like it. Sevy, I also don't really think is playable or an option that you want to consider. He went 7 against Detroit in his lone good start of the year 2 starts ago. Struck out 8. Give up 5 hits, pitched clean. Last time out, 4 innings against Houston, 2 home runs, 4 earned, 3 strikeouts. He's just been lousy all season. I just don't think we need to go there. The price is fine, $5,500. There is a ceiling there for 55 on DK. But it's not like it's a major strikeout opportunity going up against this Brewers team. He's only striking out 18.5% for the season. So that 8 strikeout game was kind of an outlier, and it was against the Tigers, who are not good. The Brewers aren't great, but they're better than the Tigers, just man for man in the lineup. So I don't like the spot at all for Sevy. As a $5,500 dart with a ceiling of 6 to 8 strikeouts, sure, you can throw that a few times if you want to, but he's also pitching in Yankee Stadium on a hot, humid day. He's got that short porch and right to deal with lefties like Christian Yelich, Sal Frelick, to a lesser extent Bryce Turang in there, switching in Carlos Santana, of course. So there's some threat here for Sevy. I don't really like the spot very much. Even for price, I just don't really see it working out that many times. So I would go away from it. Definitely want to get involved in stacking Yankees today. I think it's a very good spot for them against Colin Ray. Even without Giancarlo Stanton, there's tons of power. You've got all the kids, basically from... even Gleyber's still only 26, but this is just basically priorities among the kids. All 4 of those guys are, at worst, interesting. All 4 of those guys, at worst, are fairly priced with decent ceilings. Starting from the bottom, Oswald Peraza is a star. He's a premium rookie. He's a premium prospect in the system. He was raking in the minors. He was doing really well in the minors. He was coming up, as one of their prime guys, and it was a race between him and Volpe between who would get here first. Fills 2 positions on DK for 28. Fills 3 positions for 24 on FanDuel. The low prices are because he's delivered a 183, 280, 221 triple slash so far, a 48 WRC plus in his 118 plate appearances. He's been here in spots throughout the season and hasn't really delivered. But a capable bat that I do believe in, multi-position eligible as just a value play as a lever in Yankee stacks, I think he's an important piece of the puzzle. Anthony Volpe's cheap, $3,800, $2,600 for a guy with 20 homers, 22 steals. I'll ignore the triple slash for DFS purposes and just talk about the good, as much as I like to complain about the disappointments in his numbers this season. The contact is good at 9.2% barrels, 42.8% hard hits. The counting stats can't be ignored. He should have more stolen bases, but the 20 homers from a rookie shortstop, pretty good. 92 WRC plus, a 185 ISO. Put him bat on ball effectively enough. Austin Wells is expected to hit at this level. He's here for his bat, not for his defense behind the plate as a catcher. They're not 100% sure he's going to stick at the catcher spot. But while we're getting him there, $2,600, $2,400 for what his bat should be is an interesting spot. You can see he's above the magic number in the home run model. I like that spot quite a bit. 26, 24, very effectively priced. On DK, that is a very interesting value catcher. Gleyber Torres having a great year, 46, 33, not priced appropriately for his production this year. DraftKings should have him up around 5 or probably higher. FanDuel's a little closer to the mark, but 3,500 wouldn't be out of the question. And 36, I'd probably still be happy to pay for Gleyber's numbers this year. 25 homers, 13 steals, 197 ISO, creating runs 25% better than average. Up to 275, 343, 472. I can't stop talking about how he's cut his strikeouts by more than 8 points, 8.5 points. He's having a great year. People aren't really noticing. He's also over the home run model, over the magic number. Dominguez over the magic number. Like I said, home run pick of the day, 4,100, 3,600. Get him while he's cheap. 3 home runs, 417 ISO in his 25 plate appearances. That's a pretty good start. 15% barrels, 60% hard hits. Hitting behind the master of barrels and hard hits, Aaron Judge, 27.4% barrels, 63.5% hard hits. And if you don't think those are realistic, last year for the full season, 26.2% barrels and 60.9% hard hits. Leads the league by far in consistent hard contact. 31 homers on the season and a 350 ISO. 6,500, 4,300, obviously the highest mark by a pretty wide margin on the home run model today. DJ off the top, at least he's cheap, plays first base, 3,700. 2,800 first, second, and third base on FanDuel. There's definitely a lot of utility in that spot, hitting ahead of all the power bats, if at the very least. And DJ, for all his struggles this year, does have a 43.2% hard hit rate, 15 home runs. He's had a little bit of a recent power surge, up to a 102 WRC plus. So not completely ineffective, just not doing what we expect DJ LeMahieu to do. On the other side, let me see if we got it. Nope. I was hoping to wait that out and see if we got it. Brewers side assume that Christian Yelich is a top priority bat in all situations, except for the one in which he's not in the lineup, which I wouldn't expect. 54-34, very good price for a hitter with 17 home runs, 27 steals, a 116 WRC plus. 50% hard hits and 8.7% barrels as a lefty in Yankee Stadium plays. A lazy fly ball or right for Christian Yelich could get out, just given his premium contact, and much more likely to be kind of a laser to right. Very high-end opportunity for a home run. 8.22 is up there for him. He's not one of the typically mashing way above the magic number for home run power, so when we see him in this range, that's indicative of a good opportunity for him. William Contreras, one of the more valuable catchers, given where he hits in the lineup. 21% better than average creating runs, 15 homers. Carlos Santana, 19 homers, 95 WRC plus, 182 ISO. 37.1% hard hits, does hit from both sides of the plate, so he'll take shots at that short porch as well. Chuck Deuces says New York weather may cause a late start. Dodgers, Washington, possibility of a delay, but most likely play. Yeah, Travis, I went through the weather a few minutes ago. It seems like everything is in a situation where unless something goes unexpectedly, they might get rained on for a little bit, might have an in-game delay, might have a couple late starts, but everything should play and finish. The one I'd be the most concerned about is Washington, just given their weirdness with that type of situations in the past. They've had a quick trigger for PPDs. They've been weird about waiting out delays and cancel things that have looked safe. I agree with Chuck that overall everything should play. Emac says, love to see Colin Ray back from minor leagues, sending down a 30-year-old pitcher to figure things out, who also pitched in the NPB, I think, not NPL. I think it's the MPB, buddy. Emac agrees, though. Stack the Yanks. But yeah, Colin Ray just has been really bad all season. This is what I'm most interested in, right? We're obviously looking at power for these Yankees. We're looking right through here. But there's a lot of guys at or around the magic number there. But dynamite note from me, Mac. I hadn't even noticed that Colin Ray went back to the minors because I didn't look through his game log or any of that. I'm just interested in who he is. And that is a targetable pitcher pitching in Yankee Stadium. Sal Frelick in the middle of the lineup, 4,200, 3,000, back to fairly cheap prices, down to 245, 363, 400, still at 110 WRC plus, 3 homers, 6 steals. But the gleam has kind of come off a little bit after his hot start. 4.4% barrels, 32.2% hard hits. Adames does barrel the ball consistently, 12.9% barrels, 4,500, 3,100 at shortstop. He's up to 23 home runs. We know that he's very flawed. 26.3% strikeouts. 184 ISO, a 212, 297, 396, 87 WRC plus. You're just home run hunting when you roster Willy Adames cheap, but I think he's got upside for power in a Yankee Stadium game. Playable mix and match parts at the bottom of the lineup. Kana from a veteran sense. Monasterio, Turang, and Taylor from a young players with a little bit of acumen for counting stats from time to time. None of them great. Kana's the only guy above average in 425 plate appearances, a 13% better than average run creation mark, 9 homers, 8 steals. It's fine, but with his 358 on base, who's he getting on base ahead of? Turang, Monasterio, and Taylor. So that's not ideal. If you get Kana hitting in a different part of the lineup, he's kind of more interesting. So keep an eye on where he hits. This will probably be the spot, though. He's cheap. He's an effective enough veteran bat in the outfield. Turang, 6 homers, 18 steals. Like I said, good for counting stats, but inconsistent. 62 WRC plus. Monasterio, 95 WRC plus. 3 homers, 7 steals. Tyrone Taylor, 57 WRC plus, 5 homers, 7 steals, and 178. He's actually probably, to me, more interesting. 2,200 in the outfield on FanDuel, 25 on DK. Had 17 home runs in 405 plate appearances last year. So just kind of a sneaky late lineup power bat in the vein of a Michael A. Taylor. Not to put those guys in the same bucket because they have the same last name, but just reminds me of that in that hitting ninth spot. A little bit of sneaky pop in his bat. So I don't hate the Tyrone Taylor play. Everybody who can hit for power in theory is in play in a Yankee Stadium game. LNS, I don't hate that. I don't know if I would want to get too loaded into that game though. I do like the matchup for both of these teams against pitchers. My concern becomes around the Brewers with the 4.39 total. I don't know that that's necessarily reflective of how Sevy's actually pitching at this point, but I don't know that I want to put all my eggs into a game with just the both sides of the 9-run total when we've got a 9.5, couple 9.5s, a 10.5 to work with, and some inflated totals in some of the lower end games. So I don't know if I want to go with 2 sub-5 teams. If I can get the Yanks with one of the sneakier 5+ teams or the high 4s teams, I might be more interested in that. But it's not off the board by any means. I'll play any type of lineup as long as it looks viable, and I think there are viable bats with the Yankees' flexibility and some of the flexibility, especially on FanDuel. You can get to basically any combination of this game, I imagine, on FanDuel. On DK, it's a little bit more difficult. You do have 3 multi-position guys on the Yankees, but none on the Brewers. The idea that you've got 1, 2 of your outfielders here, one outfielder there. I guess you could take Santana instead of DJ at first is fine. Thomas Volpe at shortstop. You'll have some decisions to make. It's not a bad game stack, though, because you'll be using some of these value parts, I think, on both sides. Make sure you're getting like at least 3 guys from the top 3 of either lineup, though, or the top 4 of either lineup into that lineup, I would think. Out of your 5 guys, 3 of them should hit on either side up near the top. Let's put it that way. Or I'm sorry, it's not only 5 guys, it's 8 guys because you're game stacking. So out of your 8 guys, let's say half of them should hit in the more toward the top half of the lineup, so that we're ensuring a little bit of bonus play, a little bit of plate appearance upside, and we're getting to the better bats. But there's a lot of value on both of those squads later in the lineups. Chuck Deuces says, how about Texas trading to get Montgomery and giving up Raggins for Chapman? And then Raggins, yeah, you wanted a lefty. You had one sitting right there who's been significantly better than Montgomery over that stretch. Chapman's so weird. He's so up and down. He's amazing to watch, though. I mean, anybody who can throw the ball 105 miles an hour. Dodgers lineup's got to be in by now. So that's one game down 40 minutes into the show. Let's start with Mackenzie Gore. He's kind of been getting tattooed of late. Started the season pretty well. We've talked about this before. Still gets a little bit of kick from his 30+% strikeout rate the first couple months of the season. 4.28 ERA, a 4.08 xFIP. Has been really inconsistent, and he gives up tons and tons of premium contact, tons and tons of power. 4.26% home run rate, 11.6% barrels. I just think it plays into the upside of the Dodgers here. I don't really think we're looking to Mackenzie Gore to save the day for us today. Doesn't really project out great, doesn't project great for the money, and going up against one of the better lineups in all of baseball. They got JD Martinez back today. Major right-handed power bat to drop into the middle of that lineup behind Chris Taylor. So no Mookie. All right, that's interesting. Doesn't give me confidence in playing Mackenzie Gore. There's still a lot of excellent bats in this lineup. But no Mookie's at least a little bit of a ding for the Dodgers, and definitely worth noting off the top. Chris Taylor definitely specializes against lefties, hits for a lot of power in the split. He's got an 11.1% barrel rate overall, 15 homers, 15 steals, 109 WRC+. plus. I think I said Chris Taylor when he was projected down here the other day would be more interesting higher in the lineup. I mean, here he is, 3,300 in the outfield. 2,600 with 3 position eligibility on the FanDuel slate. Major piece of value. Freddie Freeman right behind him, 6,100, 4,100. Now you get Freddie with a semi-effective leadoff hitter in front of him who doesn't cost 6,000 on DK, doesn't cost 4,600 on FanDuel. Makes the top end of the Dodgers a little bit more playable. Obviously, Chris Taylor is not Mookie Betts. Let's get that straight. I forgot to change Will Smith to Bill Smith on FanDuel, but who cares? That's just something I have to remember for later. Will Smith, tons and tons of pop in his bat, 15.9% strikeout rate, walks all the time, 17 homers, a 178 ISO, 124 WRC+, plus, another one of the top priority catchers. 56 is a fair price for a catcher who hits third every day and does what he does at the plate. JD, tons of power, tons of premium contact, 17.2% barrels, 54.2% hard hits, 25 homers, a 291 ISO when he left off after 390 plate appearances. Just getting back today, maybe the timing's off. I know people worry about that. I tend to go to those guys and let others worry about it, and just hope I get JD Martinez in full swing. Not to put a pun on it, but JD Martinez with all his premium contact, I'll take my shot, especially 3,500, 5,200. He's relatively cheap. Max Muncy, don't sweat the lefty, 16.1% barrels, 48.4% hard hits, 32 homers, a 273 ISO going up against all this premium contact. Take your shots with Max. 5,000, 3,400 is not expensive enough for that power hitter. He's a 3 true outcomes guy. He's got a 204 average, but a 333 on base is pretty effective. It's effective enough to combine with his power to keep him 19% above average for run creation, despite the terrible batting average, despite striking out 26.7% of the time, because he walks 15.1% of the time and he tattoos the ball when he makes contact. That is the ideal type of hitter. I mean, not ideal. This could obviously be better. Not ideal, but from a power perspective. And from a 3 true outcomes perspective, that's my kind of guy, and that's what we're looking for DFS, is this type of a hitter, particularly in a lefty spot where people may mistakenly go away from him. Ahmed Rosario, not uninteresting, 4,000, 2,700, second and short on DK, short only on FanDuel is a little bit more limiting. He's been okay. 262, 303, 379 is okay, but it's not great, and it's not nearly what was expected. He should have approached 2020 in a good season. 13% worse than average creating runs, 6 homers, 13 steals. Disappointing year. Doesn't strike out much. Can put bat on ball, but hasn't been making great contact. Didn't make great contact last year either. Enrique Hernandez, 3,200, 2,300. He's very cheap. Fits multiple positions on both sites. Scuffling through the season. Kind of veteran utility journeyman type, but you can mix him into a few lineups. James Outman is actually interesting at the bottom of the lineup, 37.28, very fairly priced for a guy with 10.9% barrels, 40.9% hard hits, 18 homers, 14 steals, and a 121 WRC plus in 482. That's a great price for that bat. I know he hits late in the lineup. So what? Take him, combine him with, there's a formula for you. Take them, combine them with that formula won't get you anything, by the way. It'll just get your references in my to get to Max Muncy's name from my model. So yeah, take your Outman shares with like that, or like Taylor, Freeman, JD, Muncy, Outman. That's a stack. It's not crazy expensive if you leave if you skip Smith. You go these guys. Yeah, value here, value here. I actually like that a lot. Chris Taylor, Freddie Freeman, JD Martinez, Max Muncy, James Outman. Total spend. So for those hitters, it includes Freddie Freeman, JD Martinez, Max Muncy, James Outman, who's having a great year at the bottom, and Chris Taylor, who's good against lefties from the first spot in the lineup, correlating directly with that entire stack. $4,600 average, 23.3 total spend. That's a pretty solid 5-man. You can mix in Will Smith for a higher price, drive it up a little bit. If I had that once, I would probably have it again in a version that had Will Smith. You could use Ahmed Rosario in there instead of another guy and run it, further down lineup. I like that a lot. Enrique Hernandez and Miguel Rojas are kind of the weak links in that lineup. Everybody else is basically a priority. It's a good spot. National side of things going up against Emmett Sheehan. Let me look at Sheehan's game log real quick. I didn't have a chance to... He hasn't had anything weird recently, has he? Talented guy. Yeah, a couple short starts. 4 innings, 5 innings. Oh, and it was, that's right. He went. He only came. Yeah, he was in the minors and from the beginning of August, I think. So 4 innings for Sheehan the last time out. Struck out 6, walked 3, faced 16 hitters. To me, that speaks of a little bit of inefficiency. Probably had enough leash to get 5 if he had not walked the world. But faced 16 hitters, maybe not. I don't know what the pitch count is. Give up a homer, 3 hits. 3 walks, 6 strikeouts is weird. Overall on the season, Sheehan 20.3% strikeout rate, 11.9% walks is ugly, 5.31 ERA, 5.64 xFIP. Yeah, maybe we unwind this a little bit. I don't know. I might knock this down a peg just on expectation of innings. Sorry, they got him across town. I want to see what the pitch count looks like. Yeah, that's limited. I had him too high. Let's cut Sheehan a little bit. I would drop Sheehan by like 5 points. I think the innings are going to be probably limited around 5. And the Nats don't strike out that much anyway. This was too high. He's probably getting a few too many innings. Did I mistakenly nudge him? I might have. I had to nudge a few of these guys for innings today. Yep. Oh, I cut him. Interesting. So I didn't cut him far enough. That clears some of it. Took him down like 3. Yeah, at this point in the season with some of these guys who have been here, then not, it doesn't necessarily jibe right with the backbone projection, so sometimes I got to get it in there on the innings. Yeah, call it 4 or 5 innings. I don't really like that spot now. He is correctly priced for the opportunity, but again, the Nats don't really strike out all that much. Not great at drawing walks or creating runs necessarily, but they don't strike out, so the ceiling is really capped here. Let's move on from Emmett Sheehan. Let's talk about the Nats bats. C.J. Abrams off the top, 48-31. Against a pitcher who is going to be giving up contact, has been walking people. Not uninteresting. Abrams has 15 homers, 40 stolen bases, down to an 88 WRC plus, which kind of sucks because he was surging for a little while there after they moved him into the leadoff spot. Kind of really liked it. He was creating runs at like a 110 clip after being in like the 90s all season, but now his overall has come down. His in the leadoff spot has come down, dropped down below league average. So dicey, but definitely there for counting stats in 517 plate appearances, and correlates if he happens to get on base with the Joey Meneses, the Dom Smiths, the Keibert Ruizes of the world. But it's not the great version of not that there is a great version of the Nats lineup, but it's not a great version of the Nats lineup with no Lane Thomas in it, with some of the more productive hitters from earlier in the season. Dom Smith, 2,624. He's low strikeout. He doesn't do much else. Hits for an okay average. Only 7 homers, a .089 ISO, 10% worse than average creating runs. Keibert Ruiz does have a little bit of power behind the plate. 4,100, 2,600, 16 homers on the season. A 94 WRC plus, though. 153 ISO. He doesn't strike out at all. 9.9% strikeouts, 6.3% walks. Definitely good at putting bat on ball. Probably a limiting factor for Emmett Sheehan here. Blankenhorn, 31-27 at second base. Forgot to update him to get a home run total out of him, but 250, 368, 438 in his first 19 plate appearances, 1 home run on the board. Jake Alou, 1 home run over 114 plate appearances, 4 steals, only a 67 WRC plus. None of these guys down the bottom really get on base all that effectively. I ignore the 368 that Jake Young's got in 39 plate appearances. He's a speedy guy, 2 stolen bases so far. He is getting on base at this level. He's created runs 15% better than average in the 39 opportunities, but let's give him a minute. He wasn't ineffective in the minors. Carter Kaboom, still cheap, 3,800, 2,900. 3 quick home runs, a 222 ISO, but overall a pretty limited triple slash, a 77 WRC plus in 48 plate appearances. Not all that great for 38-29. So Dodgers bats way up there. I like the Dodgers spot quite a bit here. Then really not that much else. Nationals bats below that for the opportunity against Sheehan, but I expect them to just be more like limits his strikeouts. They score a handful of runs, and not necessarily a spot where we're looking for the Nats to be like a prime sneaky stack or anything. I don't think they necessarily go off here. I think they're just probably not going to let Emmett Sheehan do anything. I'm pissed I left that high. That's bothering me. That was a mistake. Sorry, guys. Keep on moving. Marlins lineup's probably in. It is indeed. No Jorge Soler again. Ding to the Marlins, of course. Let's see. Jody Padres. Decent projection. Not like rocketing through the top of the board by any means. Went 4 2/3 against Washington. Allowed 3 home runs. Walked 3. 5 strikeouts. Much better in the previous 2 since returning. He had struck out 10 against the Dodgers on the 19th, which is just impressive given it's the Dodgers. They're low strikeout, and they're the Dodgers. So interesting enough. I think we're as long as we get our proper amount of depth, not exactly safe against the Phillies. He's given up a little bit of power at 4.09% home runs. That's definitely targetable with guys like Kyle Schwarber off the top. 11.2% barrels, but he's got a 29.9% strikeout rate for the season. 2.86 ERA, 3.99 xFIP. This is the more honest number. This is who he is. There's a lot of premium contact, but you can chase the strikeouts in this spot. 16.2% swinging strikes as, what is he, 20? He's 20 years old, just been dominating major league hitters in terms of strikeouts, and the rest of this will calm down as he pitches. Also kind of a short sample in terms of the premium contact, the power numbers. 78 2/3 in 16 starts. Basically like a half season, not even. So I like the option for Padres, but I don't love it. I like it better at 88 on DK. 94, paying a little bit of a talent tax there in a spot against the Phillies. He was over 5 in both of those first 2 starts, I think, right? Yeah, 6 innings in each of those 2 starts before that clunker. So the only reason he came out after 4 2/3 was the 3 earned runs, the 3 home runs, struck out 5, walked 3, faced 22 hitters. So he faced a full complement of hitters. He just didn't pitch all that effectively. But 6 innings is definitely on the board for Padres here, if he's pitching well. It's the Phillies. There are some strikeouts in the lineup, but there's also some dangerous hitters. You've got Trey Turner surging all the way up to 262, 311, 450. 103 WRC plus, 22 homers, 25 steals, starting to look more like Trey Turner. Got a ways to go still, but dramatic improvement in Turner's numbers over the last month. Kyle Schwarber, 13.88 in the home run model, no stopping him for power, 16.1% home runs, 16.1% barrels, 41 home runs on the season, a 280 ISO, creating runs 20% better than average. Another guy who's just a 3 true outcomes hitter. 195 I don't care about when he's getting on base at a 345 clip and hitting for this much power. 28.4% strikeouts. I don't care when he's getting on base, hitting for power, and walking 18% of the time, which is why he gets on base so efficiently. All I care about is as long as he's walking, as long as that on base is there and the power's there, it's a great option. 57-37 across sites. I know people don't like Kyle Schwarber because of the low average, the strikeouts, the inconsistency. I like the power bat. And he correlates. He's a decent correlation option with that on-base percentage ahead of Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos. Castellanos, 52-34. He's cooled, 270, 308, 456 overall, still above average at 103 WRC+, plus, down to a 185 ISO, 22 home runs after a really hot start, but still maintaining a 10.2% barrel rate, 42.9% hard hits for the season. Strikes out a little bit too much for a guy who doesn't walk that much, but an effective overall season for him. Harper's obviously a star. He's pricey, 6,000, 4,000. Difficult to get Harper and Turner into the same lineup as well as Schwarber on the DK slate. Difficult, not impossible. There are value bats to use down lineup even in this lineup. Bryson Stott, 4,700. Alec Boehm, 4,500 with first and third eligibility. Those guys are cheap on FanDuel as well. JT Realmuto, premium catcher. He's expensive, not for the fact that he's a premium catcher, but a down lineup catcher. So he takes a little bit of a ding when we compare, all right, he's very, very good at what he does. He produces good counting stats. He's given us plenty of DFS reliability over the years. But for a similar price, we could have Will Smith up here. We could have William Contreras up that way. So Realmuto, a minor slice off the top just for the spot in the comparatively. Not on individual talent, but comparative to other catchers on the slate. A thin slice off the top just for where he hits in the batting order. Brandon Marsh, I've talked about him a few times. 47.5% hard hits. 9 homers, 8 stolen bases, 175 ISO, but 290, 383, 466. A terrific 130 WRC plus that second on this team to Bryce Harper. I almost said leads this team. He's had a really good year over 406 plate appearances. Makes excellent contact with the ball. Strikes out a lot, but walks a decent amount. So I like the Brandon Marsh option at the bottom, 33.28. interesting enough wraparound play given his on-base skills. I think he's actually a better wraparound play than Yohan Rojas at the bottom. 28-25 for Rojas. He's got a 289, 330, 402 triple slash over 107 plate appearances. Minor bat in terms of impact overall, though. I prefer Brandon Marsh to wrap around, but the Phillies lineup plays 1 through 8. Marlins side going up against Christopher Sanchez. Sanchez, last time out, 4 2/3, 3 earned, 5 runs total on a homer, 7 hits, only 5 strikeouts against the Angels that last time. He had gone 3 straight before that where he went 6 innings and gave up exactly 2 runs. 5 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts. I think we've got a similar-ish kind of an upside against the Marlins here. For price, it's not terrible. He projects out okay. 7,800, 8,300. Not bad. I think there's reason to believe in the Chris Sanchez spot. Over the course of the season, 14 starts, 75 innings, 23% strikeouts, a 3.48 ERA, a 3.31 xFIP. Very, very good. Only walks 4%, 1.04 whip. Pretty decent. No. I saw the 8.8% barrels. I got ahead of myself. 4.33% home runs. That's a little bit rough. Smallish sample, does keep the ball down effectively. So, a little bit okay on the barrel rate. Definitely a good average launch angle for keeping the ball down. But he's allowed some incidental power in those 75 innings. Some of that's coming through for guys like Jake Berger in the Marlins lineup. A little bit for Jazz Chisholm. Jazz hitting down lineup today, 7th. Not the best spot in the batting order for the guy who's probably their best power bat today. It's a little bit weird. Jazz would gain ground. Let me do something funky here. See where Jazz pops to if I put him second? This definitely went up. Home run mark went up to 11.49. Down lineup, he's at 9.64. It's a minor difference, but it's above versus below, and it's well above the magic number if he moves up. So that's what you gain from hitting higher up in the lineup. I just thought that would be a good point good spot to illustrate that. 5,235, perfectly fair price for Jazz. You're just a little bit more limited in the plate appearances. 16 homers, 19 steals, a surge in recent weeks. 305 plate appearances, 211 ISO, 106 WRC plus. Not a bad season in his limited action. He was hurt for half the season. John Birdie's been bad, bottom of the lineup, 13 steals. He stole 41 last year. He is hitting 281, but only getting on at a 316 clip. Only a .79 ISO and 82 WRC plus. Kind of a weak option at the bottom. Jake Stallings, just kind of a mix and match type catcher. So really, we're limited to kind of here. Not ideal with Garrett Hampson hitting 6th. Julie Gurriel hitting 5th. I like the top 4 and Jazz. These guys are okay mixers. You can build these two guys rather. You can build lineups with Julie Gurriel in it. He's got a 79 WRC plus on the season, only 3 home runs, 4 steals in 300 plate appearances, and the 4 steals are kind of weird. Garrett Hampson, little bit of speed, minor pop, 276, 341, 391 is okay, 104 WRC plus and 178 plate appearances. At the very least, he gives you multi-position for cheap prices on both sites, but the better players are definitely up here. Julie Gurriel is still decent against lefties. I'll give him that. Brian De La Cruz, you do have a lefty on the mound. Power coming through for Jake Berger, obviously, with the premium contact that Chris Sanchez has given up. But again, has been checking that launch angle. So if he manages to not make a mistake to Jake Berger, this could get a lot more limited in a hurry. Berger also strikes out at a 28.4 clip. 31 homers on the season, can't take it away from him. 282 ISO, 120 WRC plus. He's won me over a little bit in terms of believing that the power is real. And that maybe he'll be able to deliver it consistently, but still kind of a lower end option. 28.4% strikeouts, only gets on a 304 clip due to a 6.1% walk rate. 44.32, at least he's correctly priced. It's not like he's expensive. Bell, capable switch hitter. Good contact profile, up to 20 home runs, 104 WRC plus. And then Luis Arias, great correlation option, one of the better correlated scoring options in all of baseball, given his excellent average, his excellent on-base skills. His 130 WRC plus is entirely on the back of just getting on base. Puts the ball in play like nobody else, 5.6% strikeouts, only walks 6.2% of the time. So despite a 6.2% walk rate, he's still getting on at a 396 clip because he's hitting 353. 5,031. You're basically paying correlated scoring-ish type prices. Still high priced relative to some of the other bats on the team, but an interesting enough option that I wouldn't really skip ahead of the power core there. So that was we break this one down? You know what I need? I need me some stacks board. Check the website. That's where the stacks board is. Let me pull up my handy stacks board to see how these things rank out. Yeah, so the Phils didn't rank great for projections. 17th by fantasy point projections against Yuri Padres. 12th by home run power. But 22nd on both sites by points per dollar value. So that's not ideal. But there are a lot of bats in that lineup that I like. The Marlins side. Where the hell are they? 13th by home run upside. Similar. 20th by fantasy point projections. So I think we go maybe lean into the pitching side a little bit more. You got to like the upside for strikeouts with Perez a little bit better. So I'll go Yuri Perez, despite how it projects. I'll go Perez on top. Chris Sanchez value is playable here. And then Phillies bats, Marlins bats. But maybe temper expectations a little bit. If these two pitchers are on form, they could easily keep this game pretty limited. Where was the total on this one? Phil's pulling a 4.82, 9-run total overall. This was earlier in the day. Might have changed a little bit. Not one of the highest totals on the board, but certainly not low. Interesting spot. Royals and the Blue Jays. We have the Toronto lineup. Yep, we do. I'll hop into the chat in a sec. I realize I haven't been in there in a minute. Hopefully nobody's saying, oh, what's he doing? This game got postponed already. After I just talked about that game for 20 minutes. Jake Swales says Snell is going to carve up the Stros tonight at low ownership. Interesting. I don't know about that one. That one's tough. The Stros are really capable against left-handed pitching. He is a premium lefty. Don't get me wrong. Like and ace caliber pitching can definitely beat premium hitting. But just to throw some water on it. Course of the season, Astros second in baseball with a 17.6% strikeout rate. They've got a 211 ISO against lefties and a 133 WRC plus against lefties. 133 WRC plus is third. 211 ISO is also third. So it's not a safe spot. It's not walks way too many. The Astros against lefties, in addition to their great ability to limit strikeouts, 8.9% walk rate. Middle-ish of the league, 12th. 61 home runs in the split is 4th. In a 5th-ranked sample of plate appearances. It's certainly not safe, but that's why you're getting Snell at low ownership. And certainly, out of the lefties in the league that could carve up the Astros, he's on that list 3 times, and there's very few other names on it. So, a premium option, one of the top lefties in all of baseball for strikeouts. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk about this one. Alec Marsh acting as the bulk reliever, as I understand it. You guys know what I think of these situations. Colin Snyder is going to open this one. Snyder not expected to work more than an inning. If anything has changed with this one, somebody let me know in the chat. Alec Marsh does have a 24.6% strikeout rate, but he's given up a 6.15% home run rate in his 52 innings. I think that probably leads us to some Toronto bats here. Got some good mid-range power shining through in the model for the Blue Jays. So I'm not going to Marsh. 58.75. He's not incorrectly priced, but he's also just not that good. In addition to the premium contact, he also walks 11.9%, 6.23 ERA with a 5.26 xFIP, a 1.65 whip. I think I made my point there. Blue Jays side of things, George Springer, Bo Bichette back in the lineup. That's awesome. 55, 3,000. If he came back yesterday, I hadn't caught it, but 314, 344, 488. Has he been back longer than that? I just am forgetting. Maybe he has. I forget when he came back. Regardless, Bo Bichette in the lineup today. Cheap on FanDuel at 3,000. That is a mistake price. 314, 344, 488, a 128 WRC plus in 506 plate appearances. That is a really cheap price for a hitter with that kind of ability. Now I'm curious. Okay, yeah, first game back. He went out on the 27th, and he's back now. So premium option here, particularly on FanDuel for 3,000, but 55, not an unfavorable price on DK for a guy 28% better than average creating runs, 18 homers, 314, 344, 48. Like I said, Springer off the top is also cheap, 48.34. I know he's been down this season, 17 homers, 19 steals, a 104 WRC plus. It's effective enough. You're just getting him as a mix-in outfielder price at this point, and we know where the ceiling is with this player. It's high. If you don't know, it's high. He's been a star caliber player. 25 homers, 14 steals last year, 22 with 4 the year before that, a 140 WRC plus 2 years ago, 132 last year. He's a very good outfielder when he's on, very good player when he's on. I like the price. Vladdy, 5,400, 3,500, 21 homers, only a 170 WRC plus, continues to disappoint in the statistical delivery, still 14% better than average creating runs, still makes fantastic contact, as we say, basically every time. Davis Schneider, second and third base eligible for $5,000 on DK, 3,900 on FanDuel at second base only. Just keeps on hitting. 7 home runs, 82 plate appearances, a 462 ISO, a 261 WRC plus, 385, 512, 846 slug percentage. I don't think he maintains this for too much longer, but he's definitely been crushing the ball. 23.3% barrels, 18.3% walks to support the aggressively good on base percentage in 82 plate appearances. 82 plate appearances at this point, he's gotten on in half of them. That's pretty good. Again, he's not going to get on base in half of his plate appearances for his career. He'd be the best player of all time. But he's been very effective so far. It's just difficult because you're paying a tax for what he's already been. That's the challenge when you get something like that. Kevin Biggio, second base and outfield. Whit Merrifield, also second base and outfield. On FanDuel, Kevin Biggio's second base, first base. Not that it really matters. $2,300 option, cheap in DK as well. 8 home runs, 5 steals, a 95 WRC plus. Capable of putting bat on ball. 10.1% barrels is okay, but not a great option. Just kind of a mixer in the middle of the lineup for cheap. I prefer Merrifield, but he's more expensive. So take your discount in a solid handful of shares of Blue Jay stacks with going to Biggio. But Merrifield's the priority. 11 home runs, 25 steals, 99 WRC plus is a little bit down, but a solid contact option with a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. Varsho, disappointing season, 16 homers, 15 steals. I feel like he's had those for most of the season. 81 WRC plus. Major letdown this year for the Blue Jays. Alejandro Kirk, a little bit of pop in his bat behind the plate. Kevin Kiermaier here mostly for defense, but having an okay year, 110 WRC plus, 7 homers, 12 steals. Very low priority at the bottom of the lineup, but a mixer in an abundance of Blue Jay stacks. Royals bats going up against Kikuchi. I think it's a little bit both-sided. You've got some interesting power options here. Kikuchi gives up tons and tons of power over time. 3.82% home runs, 41.1% hard hits, 8.7% barrels this season, and that's a big improvement on the 5.07 from last year, the 4.05 from the year before. There's obviously tons of premium contact available with this pitcher, but a 3.63 ERA, a 3.89 xFIP, 25.2% strikeouts. He can have good strikeout games. He can have clean performances. 12.4% swinging strikes. He's got some appeal here. 27.3% strikeouts last year at 13.3% swinging. There is a ceiling here. Going up against the Royals team that sits... They are 24th against left-handed pitching with a 95 WRC plus, and they've got a 23.6% strikeout rate and just a 163 ISO in the split. Definitely upside for Kikuchi, but he's not totally safe. I would have some Royals stacks on the other side as a hedge. I also think even if you're not going to Kikuchi, the Royals are at least a little bit playable here. 10-6 and 11-3 in the home run model for Bobby Witt and Sal Perez, respectively. They're two one-star and one, starish catcher with a ton of power who's having a lousy season. 21 homers this year for Sal, 82 WRC plus, only a 170 ISO. 9.3% barrels, down pretty hard from 11.2% last year. Lost about 5 points of hard hit, call it 4.5. But still major power on any given night, going up against a lefty who yields a lot of power. I think there's upside for Sal. Bobby Witt, 63, 4,000 is fair for a guy with 28 home runs, 39 stolen bases at short, 223 ISO, 112 WRC plus. The problems come in around all the other low-end run creators in this lineup, although some of these guys are skewed in small samples. Nelson Velasquez has been really good. 3,200, 3,100, 12 home runs in only 112 plate appearances, a 394 ISO, 147 WRC plus. You're obviously just looking for power. We're home run hunting around a 21.3% barrel rate and nearly 50% hard hits. definitely still upside. If you're going to raise, what's his face's price that we talked about, David Schneider, if you're going to raise his price, yeah, he's a second baseman when Velasquez is an outfielder. But if you're raising prices on the back of recent performance like you are, I think that he should justifiably be quite a bit more expensive than 32-31 across sites, hitting in the middle of this lineup. MJ, good lefty pop, lefty in this situation. Maybe he puts bat on ball, 3,600, 2,800, 14 homers, 163 ISO. Disappointing for all the contact. You guys probably just hear that as a chorus when we talk about MJ at this point. Michael Garcia up at the top, 328 on base, only a 90 WRC plus. A little bit of speed, a little bit of a great spot for correlated scoring with the guys you want to go to. So he's probably the next man in behind these four. He's better than these options. Freddie Fermin, 3,500, 2,400, does have 9 home runs, a decent triple slash, a 103 WRC plus. Nick Lofton in 19 plate appearances have been productive for run creation. Kyle Isbell in 268 has not. Neither is Daleron Blanco over 113. He does have 18 stolen bases. Blue Jays bats. Uncomfortably Yusei Kikuchi, but he projects well. He's got a very nice strikeout ceiling. Got to stay safe with the power. So Blue Jays bats, Kikuchi. Royals bats. No love for the opener follower situation in Kansas City. Chuck says Houston takes walks around the best in the league. Snell issues them around the top, but I wouldn't be shocked if Snell has 12 strikeouts tonight. 12 would surprise me. Against the Astros, that would surprise me. It's on the board, but it would be surprising. Let's call it like 8. 8 or 9 would be a damn fine performance against that team. Let's be reasonable. Yeah, I'll give you 8 or 9 strikeouts, and he limits walks to only 2. That would be a monster performance from Blake Snell, assuming that the rest of the line looks clean, assuming there's not, also 4 home runs baked into it. But clean innings, strikeout upside for sure. Orioles and the Sox, a little bit of weather to be concerned with. I'm not in love with either pitching option. Tanner Houck's been limited in terms of the innings. Hasn't finished 6th since he went out on June 10th. In his 3 recent starts, he went 5, 4, and 5. Struck out 2 and 3 earned runs at Houston in 5. Struck out 4, 1 earned run against the Dodgers in 4. Struck out 5, but gave up 4 earned runs to that Kansas City team we were just talking about. In another outing, I forget which order those go in. So just kind of a limited option here. 81 and 2/3 in 16 starts, 21.3% strikeout rate. Going up against a productive Orioles lineup. There's a little bit of power on the board given the premium contact that he's allowed. 90 miles an hour of exit velo, 43.2% hard hits, 5.07 ERA, but a 4.02 xFIP underneath that. He does effectively, when he's pitching well anyway, he misses barrels and he keeps the ball down. 7.1 degree average launch, 6.6% barrel rate. So pretty effective at missing home run trajectory when things are going right. When he makes mistakes, they'll travel. That's basically the book on Tanner Houck. 74-77. He's moderately priced, moderately projected for those prices even. So I think at best you're getting like a correctly priced mid-level or lower mid-end guy in a bad pitcher's park against a good team on a bad pitching night. I don't like that spot that much. Cobb Radish on the other side, going up against this stout Red Sox lineup in Fenway Park on a hitting-oriented kind of a night. I don't love that either. Not exactly projecting well. Hang on. Something just fell in the other room. Joker, what are you doing? Joker's having a bad week. I don't know what he's into, but I just heard something fall off. Something else. Come here, pal. He's in the other room. I don't know what he's up to. There was a calamity in the other room. I'll find out later. Vic David Figueroa says the rain came and went like my last marriage in Boston. I think you got more coming at you, Vic, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Charles Moret says Terry's got ghosts. No, I just got a clumsy dog. Good boy. He's here now. Good boy. He's all excited. He's like, oh, you need me? You need me? What's up? You need me to jump on the show? So I think we're going to bats on both sides of this one. I'm going to get involved a little bit in targeting some Tanner Houck here. I do think he's gettable for home runs. Not really coming through in the home run model overall for the Orioles side of things. There are good, not great home run hitters up and down this lineup. A lot of double-digit totals, a lot of good mid-teens totals. Peaks at 27 with Santander, who's been a good power hitter over the last couple of years. 30 home runs each of the last two, I think, looking for his third straight, or maybe it's back-to-back, I forget. But a good enough and regular power hitter for them. 233 ISO on the season. Gunner's a very good power bat. 23 home runs, a 225 ISO from the left side. Third base and shortstop for 54 on DK. 3,300 is way too cheap for Gunnar Henderson in this spot for 30 on FanDuel. That's a bargain. Really like that price for Gunnar on this spot. That boosts the appeal for the Orioles for me. First time I'm noticing it. Adley Rutschman, one of your premium catcher options, hitting leadoff, just sees way more plate appearances than any other catcher. 593 plate appearances. That has to lead the league for the position for plate appearances. 119 WRC plus in that, a 368 on base, 17 homers. He's capable of going deep. He's only got a 7% barrel rate, 37.9% hard hits. He's here to put the ball in play, draw his walks, get to first base, and set the table for the rest of the team. He's a terrific option at the position. Ryan O'Hearn, 3,300, 2,600. Say it with me. As long as he's still hitting it and they don't raise his prices and he's in the middle of the lineup, he's a playable bat. That's been the chorus with him. This is the best 289 plate appearances in his entire career. I guarantee you he hasn't had a better stretch of 289 plate appearances. 126 WRC plus, a 196 ISO, 11 homers, slashing 303, 336, 498. He's never done that before. Still only 33, 26, first and outfield eligible. Excellent contact profile. 53.1% hard hits, second behind Gunnar. Pretty terrific option. Ryan Mountcastle should have more home runs than he does. 18 homers on the season, a 190 ISO. Pretty good. Excellent contact at 12.8% barrels, 44.9% hard hits. He crushes the ball when he makes contact a lot of the time. Gets limited in home games by the changes they made to that ballpark before last year that limit right-handed power a little bit. But also missed a handful of games in the middle of the season and has been a little bit up and down in his power output. But I really believe that the righty power is going to come through at some point for Mountcastle, and we'll get 30-plus home run seasons out of him. Cedric Mullins, lefty, interesting option for only 4,700, 3,300, given his 30-30 performances in the past. 110 WRC plus, 13 homers, 16 steals this year. Austin Hayes, 4,000, 2,900, very playable part in the back end of the lineup. 288, 334, 465. If nothing else, he's effective with the bat, correlates with some other guys in the lineup, can hit homers, can create runs. 117 WRC plus for the season. Adam Frazier, Ramon Urias, mix and match parts, triple position eligibility for Urias at 2,500 on the FanDuel slate. There's a lot of value there. That's a guy who hit sneaky 16 home runs and 445 last year. And then the year before that wasn't bad for run creation at 115 and a decent triple slash in 296 plate appearances. I don't think Urias is bad. He's just a late lineup guy that people don't like going to. So for 3 positions for 25, I'll go there. 27 on DK, third base only, has a limiting impact on the appeal of the Urias play. I like Urias better than I like Frazier, though. On the Bo Sox side of things, you've got premium lefties at the top of the lineup here to face Bradish. Also Masataka Yoshida down lineup. Excellent lefties. So 4 pretty tough lefties for him to deal with here. Alex Verdugo, up and down season, but 341 on base, creating runs 10% better than average. 13 homers, 4 steals, 278, 341, 449. Very effective at limiting strikeouts, getting himself to first base. Rafi Devers doesn't strike out all that much, makes fantastic contact. Still stuck at 29 home runs. I was prepared to say up to 30. I assumed he had hit it. He's been stuck at that 29 for a minute now. 236 ISO, 122 WRC plus, and 570 plate appearances, though. We're just paying for power when we go to Devers anyway. So I don't care that as I've said all season, I don't really care that he's had a bit of a dip in his triple slash. Tiny dip in the run creation mark. Still a premium lefty power bat. Justin Turner makes up anything you might be lacking in terms of the triple slash. 282, 354, 474, 121 WRC plus for Turner. Still first and third on FanDuel, 3,500. Third base, he's a decision point on DK again with Rafi Devers. That kind of sucks. But you do get a very effective alternative third baseman for a pretty significant discount over there. Tristan Casas, priority bat in this lineup. 23 home runs on the season, a 231 ISO, 131 WRC plus, 13.5% barrels, 46.5% hard hits. Excellent option for 4,300, 3,200. Price never went up. Adam Duvall, 48-32, 19 home runs and 298 plate appearances. What else do we have to say? 301 ISO, 131 WRC+. Plus. Excellent option from the right side in the outfield. Yoshida, creating runs 15% better than average. 15 homers. Very good at limiting strikeouts, 12.9% strikeout rate. All these really low strikeout rates are what have me really concerned about the Bradish spot at price. I just don't see much of a ceiling, and I see a pretty significant basement. Bottom of the lineup, Trevor Story still hiding down here. 4,300, 2,800. 176, 219, 286 is not good at all. The first 96 plate appearances have looked pretty ugly. He has stolen 6 bases, which we like when he's gotten on the limited times he's been running. 28 WRC plus not helping the cause for playing him. Contact is still there, though. 12.5% barrels, 46.4% hard hits. I will keep going back to the option for 43-28. 2 positions on FanDuel also. In a lineup that I expect to succeed, rising tide effect, if nothing else. Manuel Valdez, Connor Wong, mix and match parts. Connor Wong, okay contact. Valdez, 11.4% barrels is interesting. 5 home runs, 4 steals, and 115 plate appearances. Both below average for run creation, but playable parts at the bottom of the lineup. Ranking it out, they went... Orioles ranked a little higher than the Red Sox, which makes sense given the matchups. Orioles 7th by fantasy point projections, but 21st by home run upside, which shows the upside for, it shows the limiting impact that Houck could have. Boston ranks 2nd for home run upside, so it shows the potential for Boston's lefty power to come through and Adam Duvall's of the world. 11th by fantasy point projections, so solidly in the middle of the board. I would be a little bit more interested than that in the Sox, I think. They're probably, I don't know how much ownership they pick up. Definitely an interesting team for the public. They were projected where? 5, yeah, both these teams above 5 runs. So they'll probably both pick up some public ownership. But I think both options are worth going to on the at the plate, and I don't really like either one on the mound. I'll go Orioles slightly ahead of the Red Sox on the virtue of being the away team and projecting out slightly better, but the home run power is on the Red Sox side, which let's call it a tie. I like both offenses. Don't really need either pitcher. If I had to go to pitcher's gun to my head, it would obviously be Kyle Bradish off the top. The Pittsburgh Pirates are going to throw Mitch Keller into the buzzsaw that is the Atlanta Braves. Mitch, decent stretch of 4 starts with 2 earned runs. 2 earned runs once and 1 earned run or less in 3 of his other starts in his last 4. 7 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, and 8 strikeouts. But these are the Atlanta Braves, and this is Mitch Keller, who we still, even in good seasons, don't really trust. 8,100. I think it's playable on DK if you are inclined to tangle with the Braves, but it's probably still just too cute by half. If he was like 6,500, that's a different story. Then I think you're just getting a value dart with an obviously extreme ceiling for that price. But it's just so likely that the Braves are going to get him here that we're playing the probable. I don't know that I want to go to it. 24.9, he projects out okay for that money. 9,700 on FanDuel. I imagine he's going to be super low owned for that money. I just think it takes him off the board. He's got a 26% strikeout rate. That's fine. 3.93 ERA, 3.72 xFIP. All the numbers are perfectly fine. 2.78% home run rate, 34.1% hard hits. He hasn't pitched all those games against this Braves team. I don't know. I don't really see it. It's got to be a limited ceiling. It's a DK option for a little bit of value maybe. It's a FanDuel option because nobody else will do it at that price. Does it make you dumb if you do it? I don't think it makes you smart. Does that mean I won't have any? Probably not. Might mix in a couple. Got to take some shots. I just don't trust Mitch. On the other side of this one, Bryce Keller pulling an interesting projection, mostly on the back of the Pirates being the Pirates. He's only got a 17.3% strikeout rate on the season. He's very good at checking power. 6% barrels, 8.5 degree average launch, 2.34% home run rate. Not bad to throw into a team with pretty limited power overall anyway, outside of Jack Sawinski and maybe some Leover Peguero, moderate output from Brian Reynolds this year, but not a great home run hitting team on the other side anyway. So I think his talent, their limitations kind of equals a pretty powerless spot here for the Pirates, and maybe a decent potential to pitch clean innings for Bryce Elder. Any notes on him? Yeah, basically 5 to 7 innings 3 to 4 strikeouts in most of his starts as you look down his performances for the year, which just jives perfectly with that strikeout rate. It's not a strikeout rate that's like compiled from a strikeout 2 for a bunch of games and then spiked to 12 in one. Like he's just consistently like 3 or 4, sometimes 5. But against these Pirates, 25.1% strikeout rate across this confirmed lineup. Maybe he sees a few more, 6, 7 maybe. That would be, I think, the ceiling for the season. But there's a lot of strikeouts available. If I'm going to Pirates bats against him, I like Brian Reynolds, I like Brian Hayes, I like Jack Suwinski, Andy Rodriguez, and Liover Peguero. Those would be my priority bats. Ji Hwan Bae is an interesting enough correlated scoring option, but he doesn't get on base enough to really support that claim. Just being in the leadoff spot ahead of the hitters that I actually want to go to is what gives him that. 241, 305, 319, 30% worse than average creating runs. 22 steals is okay. Reynolds, only 4,800, 3,500. He's fairly priced on DK. Probably should be a couple bucks cheaper on FanDuel at this point. 19 homers, 11 steals, only 8% better than average creating runs. Limited power output this season. The contact profile's fine. Doesn't strike out a ton. Walks okay. But not exactly like star power output. 35 is probably okay, but maybe 32, 33. Brian Hayes, 46, 31. I like the prices for a guy making nearly 50% hard hits. Making contact with nearly 50% hard hit rate, whatever. 13 home runs, minor surge, 182 ISO, 101 WRC plus. Hey, we're above the waterline for WRC plus. I'd like to take a tiny little bit of credit for that with my inspirational talk about Brian Hayes, because we know that they got this show on in the clubhouse. What else are you going to do in the clubhouse for 2.5 hours? Suwinski, 3,500, 2,800, 23 homers, 239 ISO. Definitely a nice contact, or a nice power bat in the middle of that lineup. 17.5% barrels, 45% hard hits. 2,800 is very cheap, especially when he moves up lineup and hits cleanup. It's cheap, but not as good when he's hitting like down here. When he's hitting cleanup behind these guys and ahead of Andy Rodriguez and Liover Peguero, that's a really good price for all the power that Jack Suwinski's got. He's another guy that's like a 3 true outcomes guy. 23 homers, 239 ISO, strikes out 33.2% of the time, but walks 14.7%. 332 on base. That's why he's able to create runs at a 109 WRC plus despite a 206 average. Mashes the ball when he makes contact from the left side. I really like Jack Suwinski. If you're thinking about one-offing Pirates, that's your Pirate. Andy Rodriguez, $3,200 catcher on DK, 2 homers, 72 WRC plus. He's been okay since coming up, but he's a really highly regarded kid. Hits from both sides of the plate. Any given slate upside for sure. Palacios, Liover Peguero. Liover's hit for a little bit of power. 6 home runs, 4 steals, 95 WRC plus, 140 plate appearances. Not really making premium contact, but he's cheap at second and shortstop on both sides. I don't mind going to Liover Peguero. He's, like I said, my next priority bat after straight line 4, 5. That's my top priorities. Rivas Williams at the bottom of the lineup just kind of mix in. Josh Palacios kind of a mix in. Hitting for a little bit of power with 7 home runs and 207 plate appearances. Speaking of Pirates, anybody out there watch One Piece on Netflix? I enjoyed it. Flew through it. Wasn't familiar with the source material. I'm not big into Japanese manga for whatever reason. But obviously there's apparently tons and tons of source material for it. But it was a good adaptation. I don't know what people who are really into the source material thought of it, but I was questioning it. I was like, I don't know how that's really translate all that well. And I enjoyed it. It's pirates it's a different universe, obviously. Kind of a very water-based planet with a lot of islands and stuff, very pirate themed, but like mixed timelines where they've got like modern-ish clothing. There's electrical lights. They go to like bars that look like modern clubs sometimes, but they're seafaring pirates on like old, Buccaneer type ships. So it's interesting, and there's a decent amount of, good amount of action actually in it. Good amount of action. There's a like superhero-ish aspect to it. That's where that's what is a part of that, right? They've some people in it have superpowers. Others are very skilled with a blade. There's gun guys. There's sword guys. There's fish people. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. What I really liked about it, it's really, really just positive and uplifting. It's got like a Ted Lasso-y kind of vibe to it. Like the main character, his whole thing is just like chase your dream, like, super positive. And the kid pulls it off really, really well. I really like the kid in the lead. Good cast overall. Really liked it. That's my recommendation. Charles Moran says live action One Piece. Yeah. Thought that said nah at first. Frederick Dude says good call. Got to check out One Piece. Yeah, fire it up over the weekend. I think you'll fly through it. If you like the first one, you'll fly through it. First one gives you everything you need to know about the series, as far as like what it's going to be. But I like the vibe. Steve Mackler updated Roth report out. Anything interesting, Steve? Let us know. Jake Swales Joker getting into mischief. Trey says per Philly weather, 45 minutes from the stadium. I said it was sunny and warm. Now it's dark and windy. Yeah, it's kind of what I'm having here. Obi-Wan, warm weather affects fur baby too, Jared. You're right about that. He's like I've talked about, like a big hairy like herding dog type. What he gets is when it gets really hot. How dogs don't really sweat, they pant and all of that, but he gets sweaty-ish underneath, like when there's moisture, it gets trapped under his fur, and then he gets these itchy spots on his underneath his fur, and he goes at him and he like digs a spot in his fur, and there's like a little scab there and stuff, a red spot. So I hate that. It's always around this time of year, these dog days, hot, sticky, nasty August days. Jake Swales says Monkey D. Luffy is the man. There you go. I agree. That's your main character in One Piece. Really fun show. Trey says New York late start said probably, but probably finish. Basically, overall, seems like the take is that he expects everything to play and finish ultimately, which is good. Keep an eye on that Washington one. That's my primary concern. 5:30 though. Let's keep this thing moving along. The Braves against Mitch Keller. I talked about Mitch a little bit, but I didn't talk about the Braves lineup. Everybody out there, I think, knows that I'll just play the Braves 1 through 9, right? What else is there to say about the Braves at this point? 7 of the 9 hitters over 20 home runs. 4 of them over 30 home runs. 1 of them over 45 home runs. 1 of them has 34 home runs and 63 stolen bases, setting a record every time he adds one to either tally. Ozzie Albies, 29 homers, 11 steals at second base, a 233 ISO, 117 WRC+. Marcell Ozuna, 4,800, 3,800, despite the fact that he would be the best player on many teams in the league. 33 home runs, a 272 ISO, mashing the baseball this year. Very cheap for Marcell Ozuna. Somebody's got to be cheap, I get it, but it just looks weird given his numbers. 16.9% barrels, 48.3% hard hits. Eddie Rosario, by the same token, very, very cheap. He's come down, he's cooled, down to 263, 319, 478, but still a 111 ISO, or WRC+, 20 homers, a 215 ISO. Still makes above average contact in terms of barrels, only 41.28. Very affordable lefty bat in that lineup. Murph, one of your top catcher options. Imagine what Murph would do if he was still hitting up here. They moved him down lineup around the middle of the season. 16.3% barrels, 45.1% hard hits, 20 homers, 243 ISO, monster power behind the plate. Arcia, Harris, 2 of our favorites from the bottom of the lineup, 108, 114 WRC+. Don't sleep on the idea of both of these guys getting to 20 home runs also. Arcia's got a closer shot at it, but Harris, with a little surge over the last 3 weeks, he could hit 6 more home runs. It's not out of the question. It's not likely, but that would be utterly amazing to have a 9-man starting lineup that, for the most part, by and large, several of these guys have played every single game this season. Actually, I think Riley's not in that anymore, but I believe Olsen and Acuna still are. But regardless, these guys play like every day, 1 through 9. If they got 20 home runs, it's already amazing. But if everybody had 20 home runs, it'd be outrageous. Travis Duarte nailed it. Watch Keller and Snell mow tonight. Yeah, Snell. I'm kind of on board with that Snell idea, right? As long as he's low owned, I do think you can take your shots there just because of how high strikeout he is. Keller is a good strikeout pitcher when he's on. I have so much less faith in Mitch Keller. So to your point, Travis, to me, Keller's the guy who's absolutely going to crush tonight. And I'll have very little, if any. Let's move on. So Braves bats. Mitch Keller. Not a good option, but probably ranked second here. And then, no, I got to give it to Bryce Elder. What am I doing? Braves bats, Bryce Elder, Mitch Keller. Only minor shares of the Pirates bats given the knack for limiting power that Elder's got. I don't really see it as a good day for the Pirates. We are taking our time with these games today. I must be enjoying chewing on the baseball of it after having my head in football for the last 24 hours straight. I do definitely feel so much more at home knowing where to click and like what everything stands for, and like just I don't even have to think. It just comes out of my mouth as I'm talking. My brain's usually behind. But yeah, just by comparison to the football dashboard where I'm still just like, wait, this one was and that one was shit. Jordan Montgomery, we referred to him before, 9,400, 10,000, does project pretty well going up against the Athletics. Overall, Oakland this season, where are they? 91 WRC plus against left-handed pitching, 22.9% strikeout rate, a 142 ISO, non-threatening team overall. They haven't been really truly good at any point this season. They do have a couple interesting bats from time to time. Zach Geloff is one of them tonight. 51.36. He's priced up. You're paying a tax for what he's done already. Not necessarily predictive in any way, but he's been very, very good, and he is a highly regarded kid. So I believe that he's probably somewhat around this level of talent. Maybe not the ridiculously, quick output. 204 plate appearances, 10 homers, 10 steals, 253 ISO, 33% better than average creating runs since his call up. Very, very good so far. Brent Rooker, cheap, 35.29 or 36.29, does have a 9 in the home run model, 23 on the season, 223 ISO. Why do I feel a little bit more optimistic that Michael Harris gets 6 more home runs than Brent Rooker gets 2 more? Because he's Brent Rooker. I do think he's playable if you're going athletic stacks, though, and getting him against the lefty, there's a little bit of upside there. Cheap. He's not expensive at all anymore on either side, so you can definitely go to Brent Rooker. Ryan Noda, 3,200, 3,100. One of their better options for on-base skills, 375 on base, 14 homers, makes very good contact, draws a very good walk rate despite striking out. So he's 3 true outcomes-ish. I don't know that he hits for necessarily enough power over in the long term, but he's kind of that type of a player. He's got an aggressively high walk rate, very good on base. His created runs 30% better than average in his 405 opportunities this year. So I like that spot. Let me see what he's done lefty-lefty. He's seen 73 plate appearances lefty-lefty. The average 241, so that's similar to, 241, 397, 534, 162 WRC plus, and 5 of those home runs have come lefty-lefty. It's actually interesting. 17.8% walks, 28.8% strikeouts. So Ryan Noda is basically effectively this same guy, possibly a little bit better same-handed. Interesting spot there that people will probably not be inclined to roster against a lefty. If you're going athletic stacks, that remains a high priority bat. I actually thought he was a little bit worse since they'd skipped him recently against lefties. Ledmus Diaz, mix in utility man. We know who Ledmus Diaz is at this point. Jordan Diaz, 2,500 on both sites. Second base on FanDuel, third base on DK. 10 homers in only 242 plate appearances. There's a little bit of appeal for cheap pricing there. Does have a 47.3% hard hit rate. 24.4% strikeouts. Is okay. Kevin Smith, third base shortstop, 21, 22. He's made 106 plate appearances. He's got 5 home runs, but only a 61 WRC plus. Langoliers, sneaky cheap catcher, 2,800, 11.5% barrels, 43.3% hard hits. Turn that into 16 home runs, a 179 ISO. This could be higher, but he plays a lot. 428 plate appearances. Langoliers is in there pretty much not every day, but most days for this team. And people tend not to go to him. So he's an interesting enough option. I'm sure he gets more popular on DraftKings slates where you need catchers when people go to Oakland. But a steady enough power bat that I'd be intrigued when I'm building athletic stacks. Certainly not somebody you go out of your way for in it by any means. Nick Allen, Esteury Ruiz, mix in parts at the bottom of the lineup. See if Esteury can get himself to, what's fair, 65 steals before the end of the season at this point. Once we have dreams of 100. If he had gotten those 600 and change plate appearances, he might have made it close. The on base isn't there to support it, but if he had gotten the full season, might have made a race of it. Paul Blackburn, I don't necessarily know how playable Blackburn is here. He doesn't really project very well. 76, the projection's okay as a low-end, low-expectation mixer, but on a slate with plenty of pitching, I don't think you need to go there. He's been his usual self through August and September. 22.9% strikeouts overall this season, a 3.81 ERA, 4.13 xFIP. This one's a little bit more. It's not that much separation, but 4+ is probably more who he is. 1.46 whip is not great, 8.1% walks, but good at limiting premium contact, good at limiting power. Only 4.5% barrels, a fantastic 30.2% hard hit rate, 86.5 miles an hour of exit velo. So potentially a little bit of a limiting impact on some of these guys who hit for power. Corey Seager, not at all limited, 2 points above the magic number, 17.6% barrels and 54.9% hard hits will have that kind of effect. 28 home runs on the season, a 308 ISO despite only making 436 plate appearances. Phenomenal triple slash. One of the best players full stop in baseball, and certainly one of the best shortstops. Marcus Semien, 5,800, 3,700, dynamite correlated scoring play to play ahead of Seager. They're a pricey pair in the middle infield, but there's a lot of discounts in this lineup when you're stacking up Rangers. No Adolis Garcia in the middle of the lineup. That's a ding. Downgrade for the Rangers stack, but I don't necessarily know how much more that pushes me toward Paul Blackburn. Blackburn is a playable part. I'll give him that much. Maybe a couple of darts at 87. Like if value gets tight on FanDuel, maybe you can take a couple shots. We've seen Paul Blackburn win slates, and he's a good enough pitcher to handle this lineup. I don't love the Seager part of it, but no Garcia is definitely a ding. You do have both power hitting catchers in there. There are some strikeouts through there, but there's also decent walk rates for Nathaniel Lowe, Mitch Garver in the middle of the lineup. Both catchers have power, 16 home runs for Garver in only 257, 15 home runs in 420 for Heim, 149 WRC plus for Garver, 106 for Heim. They're both very affordable when you need catchers especially, but on the FanDuel slate as well, I think you can play both of those guys. Leo Taveras climbing the lineup after taking a dip in the last few weeks down to 94 WRC plus, but an interesting spot now, hitting 6th. 12 home runs, 13 steals. Very, not inept by any means at the plate despite the dip. 42.7% hard hit rate, 21.6% strikeout rate, so puts the ball in play a decent amount. Ezekiel Duran, 37-27, 3 positions on FanDuel for the price. I love the option there, 109 WRC plus on the season. Josh H. Smith at the bottom, mix and match option. And I am not sure who Evan Carter is. A lot of names. If you just said the name, if you walked into this room right now and said, quick, who's Evan Carter? My brain would have immediately been like, oh, God, he's probably like the 6th wide receiver on the Chargers whose name I don't know because he was a 6th round pick this year. And that's the shit that's getting into my head for these DFS shows for football. Evan Carter, 12 home runs, 22 stolen bases, and 462 plate appearances at AA this year. Brief stop in AAA for them. Highly regarded kid. 2nd overall prospect coming into the season for them. Name just slipped past me. Doesn't look like he's got a ton of power. But maybe he managed 12 as a 20-year-old. So he's only 20. So it's not like he was playing above his head. He's actually arguably ahead of the curve. The fact that he hit 12 home runs in AA this year tells me that he's probably, these traditional scouting reports probably got it wrong. And there's probably a little bit more power in that bat than they expected. And he's a highly regarded hit tool. He's got a highly regarded hit tool that is supported by the same stint in the minors. 284, 411, 451 created runs 32% better than average in AA in this season, and the speed is there with the 22 steals. Evan Carter, not uninteresting from the bottom of the lineup, given that skill set as a wraparound option, only on DK apparently, unless FanDuel added him to the pool. That's an interesting wraparound ahead of an expensive top end. If you told me you went $2,000 Evan Carter so that you could get this combo, as a 3-man, let's say, that brings the Semien and Seager pairing all the way down to a $4,700 average. You're getting a kid who would correlate directly with them the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th times through this lineup. You're getting a kid who is likely to get on base ahead of them the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th time through this lineup. Might even steal you a base. Could drive the ball. It's apparently his major league debut, so who the hell knows? Paul Blackburn doesn't give up a ton of power, but he's certainly walking people. He's not really striking that many out, so there should be some decent contact available for the kid. That's an interesting spot on DK. I like that. Take this 3-man and that 5-man from the Dodgers that we built earlier. I don't think it had a second baseman or a shortstop in it. Those go together really nicely, guys. I don't know what you can get pitching-wise. Somebody go into DK and put that together and tell me what you can get to pitching-wise. I think you can put it together with that Dodgers stack I wanted. I like that 3-man. That's interesting. I like Nathaniel Lowe. Very fair price for a first baseman with 15 home runs, a 121 WRC plus on the season. 45-33. Just a really effective bat in the heart of the lineup that's never too expensive, never too popular. Hits third or fifth basically every day. Not bad. Overall, let's call it Montgomery, Rangers bats. Wait, where'd they rank out? Yeah, 8th by projections, 4th by home run upside for the Rangers. So I like the spot. So I'm gonna put the Rangers bats on top, even without Adolis Garcia in there. Nah. I hate when I argue with myself on these things. And it doesn't matter at all what I say in terms of how these guys are ranked. It's more about what we say throughout the breakdown there. Let's go Monty, Rangers, Blackburn. Only moderate shares of Athletics as a hedge position or something like that. But really not that interesting. Top 3, if you're going Athletics, are your priority bats. Charles Moran says, Snell been flirting with double-digit Ks. I think he gets it tonight. Remember, in baseball, elite pitching beats elite batting. You can't prove that. I can't prove it the other way. I don't know which side of that I actually believe. I do think that elite pitching tends to win the day in most situations. But Snell, I have Snell as a tick below elite because of his walks. I think he's an elite strikeout artist. I don't think he's an elite number 1 starting pitcher. I think he's a very good number 1 starting pitcher. That walk rate is a tremendous wart that in any given game can either A, limit the depth to which he can pitch because he's just thrown way too many pitches in across 4 or 5 innings, and B, just puts him in dangerous situation after dangerous situation. And against a team like the Astros, that's not a good thing. He's capable of, he has very good numbers because he's capable of striking guys out with his major strikeout upside and pitching his way through those walks. But he doesn't do that against the Astros every day. And they're very, very good at capitalizing on situations like that. So I do think that it's a little bit different, a little bit difficult there. Trey says that leaves 53, 54 left for each pitcher. So I guess that's off the board. Damn. There's probably a good way to do that, though. If you skip one of the Dodgers, you can't use Rosario because you need a shortstop second baseman. Damn. I like that. Yeah, I got to go Severino. That's not ideal, Trey. You need to win it with bats or have really long shot pitching performances come through. Not ideal. Maybe we don't put that one together. I got excited about that for a minute there. Pay down a catcher. That sounds like a good idea. Oh, wait, Trey, that wasn't the 1 through 5 LA. It was leaving Smith off, and it was using the bottom of the lineup in a wraparound from LA too, remember? It was using Outman from the bottom of the lineup. It was 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3 outfielders. Was the kid from Texas an outfielder? I think that ruins it. He is. So you can't put that one together. I forgot we had the third outfielder in over there. If you put Wells in instead of Smith, that leaves 68. That gets interesting. I do like Wells quite a bit. Yeah, maybe you one off the catcher spot, make it a 2-man. Yeah, dude from Texas is an outfielder. That's where I lost track of which positions I had from that Dodger stack because it was like an hour ago at this point that we talked about that. Coming up on 10 to 6. Handful of games left to go. Let's keep on rolling. Love this spot for Kodai Senga. 29.3% strikeout rate. Another guy like Snell, very high walk rate. 11% walk rate. 3.08 ERA, 3.68 xFIP though. Another guy who can just pitch his way through those walks in most situations. When he gets burnt by it, he gets burnt by it. But he's pitched very, very effectively this season. His splitter, that ghost splitter, is one of the premium pitches for swing and miss in all of baseball this year. He's been very effective. Only giving up a 5.9% barrel rate, 2.16% home runs. So while it's not completely coming through in the model, he does tend to take power away from teams like this. And the Twins are an aggressive, free-swinging bunch that can just feed strikeouts in his direction. I'm sure there's a confirmed Twins lineup by now. Alex Kirilloff back in our lives. The Twins are... Goes up to a 25.2% for the confirmed version of the Twins lineup. Targetable bats in terms of strikeouts. Edouard Julien, for as good as he's been, 275, 376, 454, 31% better than average creating runs, 11 homers in 323 plate appearances, and a good contact profile, 31.3% strikeout rate. That's targetable with Senga. He does draw 13.6% walks, though, so that's a danger spot for Senga as well. He gets on at a 376 clip, kind of, so far looking in the vein of one of the three true outcome guys, but hitting for a lot better of an average to support the on base as well. So that's why this is at like 376, not like 330, like we saw with some of those other guys. So this is a very intriguing bat to watch going forward. And he only cost 28.38 at second base. That's an interesting second base option. Jorge Polanco, second base only. That sucks. Positional conflict on DK. Third and second on the FanDuel slate for only 33. That's a bargain for power. 12 home runs on the season and only 281. A 207 ISO. Has been in the mid-20s to low 30s for power in multiple seasons in his career. Royce Lewis, 48.37. Third base only on DK. Shortstop and third base on FanDuel. This team's much more dynamic on FanDuel with very low discount pricing and multi-position guys. Max Kepler, 3,900, 2,800 in the outfield. Both of those guys can hit for a little power. Lewis has 11 home runs and 188 plate appearances, a 218 ISO, creating runs a team leading 48% better than average so far, and a fairly highly regarded guy on the way up. Kepler, 12.3% barrels, 47.9% hard hits is pretty spectacular. 21.8% strikeouts is one of the better strikeout numbers, and among the power hitters on this team, the best strikeout number. 21 home runs and 413 plate appearances. Pretty decent return to form from Max Kepler this season. 224 ISO, 115 WRC plus. Carlos Correa, not nearly on form. 93 WRC plus for the season. Does have 17 homers. Does still make pretty decent contact. Strikes out 22.5, but walks at a decent clip. Veteran guy, seeing a pitcher like Kodai Senga. Out of the Twins bats that I want to go to, I probably prefer Correa to at least the bottom of the lineup and, maybe to the kids as well. 41-29. I know that there's a better hitter in Carlos Correa, and I've got some data points to support that. So I'm happy to keep on going to Correa, kind of like with some of the other struggling veterans. Alex Kirilloff, 27-26. Pretty cheap. 8 home runs, 258 plate appearances this season. That said, limited in terms of the contact this year. 7% barrels. Last year was 6.3% barrels, but more hard hits. 122 WRC plus is pretty effective. Decent triple slash. So maybe more just a get yourself the first base option than a premium power hitter at this point. Not the greatest option in the world, though, late in the lineup. High strikeouts, decent walk rate, though. Vasquez, Wallner, Castro. Mix in, and a guy with a little bit of lefty power. 11 home runs for him, 187 plate appearances, 261 ISO, 18.4% barrels, 45.9% hard hits. So you can see where some of the mid-range home run numbers are coming from, despite Senga being quite good in his major league career so far at limiting power. So I get it on both sides. I would probably have a few hedge positions of Twins just in case you get the ugly walks night from Senga. But last 2 times out from Kodai Senga, speaking of 12 strikeout games. 12 strikeouts last time, 10 strikeouts the time before that. Double-digit strikeout upside for sure in this spot. See, that's the advantage. Senga, high strikeout guy going up against a high strikeout lineup, whether or not they can hit for power, versus Snell going up against one of the premium low strikeout lineups in all of baseball. That's where I prefer this side of the play. That's why Senga's at the top of the board. Dallas Keuchel, just a don't play, in my opinion. I wouldn't go there. 8.6% strikeouts. Never was a good strikeout pitcher. Used to be good at keeping the ball in the yard. He's done that somewhat effectively so far this season in his 21 1/3, 4 starts. 2.15% home runs, limiting hard hits, limiting barrels. Still giving up a 5.06 ERA, a 5.12 xFIP, putting way too many guys on base, walking the world, no swinging strikes, and just guys are going to be able to put bat on ball, and you've got plenty of good hitters in this Mets lineup. Bear with me while I write myself a note. Literally, pad and pen, write myself a note. This kind of cost me the other day. Like I mentioned the other day when we were talking about the Mets, Tim LeCastro, for some reason, is drawing a weird number in the projection model, and I never went around to fix it. And when I sorted Mets lineup on that day that day earlier this week when they went off, when the Mets just pounded whoever the hell that was, I noticed it as I was doing the sort. I said, holy shit, I don't want like 45% Tim LeCastro in those lineups. But even it was too late to go in and rebuild the whole pool of lineup. So I went in and I artificially lowered his score and tried to sort him out of the process. In doing that, I took some, interesting Mets lineups that ended up with LeCastro in them and a zero that wouldn't have gotten there anyway. But the preponderance of my Mets lineups, really all I did was shift them down further and still get to premium lineups that had LeCastro in them. It cost me Nimmo in some of those lineups, so that was one of my bigger mistakes all year, not fixing that. So I just noted I'm going to add to it. Tim LeCastro, dumbass. If you didn't hear that in a Red Foreman voice, you never watched that 70s show, I guess. One of the best deliveries. His delivery of dumbass rivals Sam Jackson's motherfucker delivery. Right? Those are two of like the best, just like that's your catchphrase and just the delivery of that one word. Perfect. So Mets bats, Brandon Nimmo off the top, 43-33, 6.87 in the home run model, 22 dingers on the year, a 127 WRC plus, a 359 on base. Correlates perfectly with all of these guys. These are your power bats on this team. Francisco Alvarez, 22 home runs, a 225 ISO, back to a 101 WRC plus, has taken a dip a little bit in terms of the regularity of the output, but still a deadly good power bat for only 3,600 behind the plate and getting additional plate appearances because he's hitting second tonight. Like that spot quite a bit on both sides. 2,700 for him. Just pretend he's a first baseman or another first baseman. Pretend he's a third baseman and plug him in at util. I don't care where you pretend he is. Just you're putting him at util because you're not skipping Pete Alonso for him. 13.34 in the lineup in the home run model for Alonso. 42 on the season. A 304 ISO. 31% better than average for run creation. A dominant power bat. Francisco Lindor, very interesting in the cleanup spot. 8.17 in the home run model, could probably be a little bit higher. Very good contact, 26 homers, 26 steals, 120 WRC plus, 215 ISO. It could be said that they've been hitting him in the wrong spot for most of the year, expecting the triple slash to turn around a little bit when they should have just given him the opportunity in the RBI and power hitter spot. Hitting cleanup, I like that quite a bit. 4,800, 3,800. He is too cheap on DK. So is Pete Alonso. Having both those players below 5,000 in this matchup, come on. They're drawing decent home run marks even against Keuchel, who, like I said, has made a career of limiting power. Mark Vientos, 2,200, 2,300, still multi-position on FanDuel. 4 home runs in 152 plate appearances, 68 WRC plus. Not exactly what we were hoping for, but all the premium contact in the world. 54.2% hard hit rate in his minor sample leads this team. 11.5% barrels is very, very good. He's a premium power hitter in the minors, a kid they expect to hit for power at this level. Jeff McNeil, mix and match part for correlated scoring. Ronnie Mauricio, 19 plate appearances since his big call-up, 50% hard hit rate, 421, 421, 474. Productive enough so far, no home runs yet, 3 stolen bases. 19 plate appearances is nothing, it's totally meaningless, but he's cheap. He's a highly regarded prospect. He's got multi-position in the infield on both sides at key positions. I like the option there quite a bit. Brett Beatty, disappointing. Another guy who came up as a highly regarded prospect for this team and kind of disappointed. 327 plate appearances, only 7 home runs, a 73 WRC plus. Still a 44% hard hit rate for only 2,900, 2,400. He's a third baseman on both sides. It's not ideal, but there is a capable bat hiding in there. And then LeCastro is really only here to, if he happens to get on base, steal a base. He's got 5 on the season and 34 plate appearances with only a 294 on base percentage. I desperately need to fix that projection. Actually, I'll just do it now. What am I doing? Why make a note of it when I can just do it now? This is where the changes go. Oh, shut up. Values. There he is. Sneak peek at what those numbers were. That lowers him not here, but it lowers him in the upload. He was obviously twice as twice as highly projected as he should have been. I imagine, like I said, it's just because the backbone initial season projection that does get updated throughout the season, but it probably just still had too much meat on the bone in terms of like stolen bases and some runs. But I've never bothered to check out why, and it cost me the other day, which annoyed me because he's never in the damn lineup. We talked about this pretty much top to bottom. Kodai Senga, Mets bats, Twins bats, no Dallas Keuchel. Vic David Figueroa says, I'm a dumbass when I get too fancy with my lineup. I agree with that totally. Andrew Jennison points out, that's a good call, by the way. Hyde going to jail for 30 years. Now, there's a dumbass. Yeah. Scientologist rapes multiple women 20, 30 years ago. Still denies it, but now he's been convicted, so we can say that he did do it. It is no longer alleged. He did it. It seems pretty clear that he did it. Church of Scientology was protecting him for quite a while. But yeah, that's weird. What I think that somebody out there ought to do is go in and take AI, Jeff Spicoli, and just replace Hyde in every episode of That 70s Show with AI Jeff Spicoli. Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the Sean Penn Stoner character. You wouldn't miss a beat. Here's the one everybody wants to talk about. 10-8, 10-6. He projects well. Blake Snell, not at the top of the board, but near it in that group. 31.1% strikeouts in 155 is dominant. 15.1% swinging strikes is one of the best marks for swinging strikes in baseball. 30.7% CSW is fantastic. A 2.50 ERA, 3.65 xFIP is probably more about right. 2.50 ERA is sparkling. Only allowing a 2.32% home run rate on 34.2% hard hits, only 7.6% barrels. Only 87 miles an hour of exit velo. All of that is tremendous. 13.8% walks is horrendous. It's ugly. If he was walking 9% even, his numbers would be significantly better, which is crazy because his numbers are fantastic. B-Funk loves Fast Times. Oh, it was on AMC last week? I didn't catch it. I've seen that movie so many times. It's definitely one that it's a rewatchable, to steal Bill Simmons' term from their. Well, I've already shared my opinions about that about a podcast that I listen to every episode of. They just drive me bananas sometimes. I forgot what the recent one was. What were they? What movie did they just do on the rewatchables? They said something about some other movie. Like, there's so many things that I just want to yell at them. Like, are you not paying? Like, how do you not get what that was? But I do enjoy the pod. But oh yeah, my point was that Fast Time, super rewatchable. If I had been flipping through and saw that on AMC, I would have definitely watched it. Jake Swales nailed it. Cult of Scientology, not Church of. Absolutely. Of course, I'm of the mind. Well, we won't get into that these days. Not at 6:03 with 3 games to go on a public channel in which there are a wide range of opinions, and we welcome them all. Just don't talk about your politics. Don't talk about your religion on my channels. If I do it, it's okay. Nobody argue with me. But yeah, I was going to get into my thoughts on, like, the wackiness of that one versus the wackiness of some of these other more widely accepted larger cults. Not a big religion guy, but I welcome everybody of all faiths in my channels. I hope that there are many devout folks who are enjoying this content, and I hope I didn't just turn you off. Blake Snell is he's an option, guys. He's obviously on the board. I'm going to have a fair amount of them. I don't know where the ownership is projected. If the ownership's out of hand, it would have a limiting impact. Doesn't look like it is on the FanDuel slate. So, yeah, at low ownership, I think we can go here. And it makes sense that he's low owned because of how good the Astros are. I described it before, but for anybody who missed it, the Astros against left-handed pitching, a 133 WRC plus collectively for the active roster. So this roster is 33% better than average on the average than the league average at creating runs. A 211 ISO is the third highest in baseball. A 17.6% strikeout rate is second best in baseball. They are a very, very good club against left-handed pitching. If anybody can knock Blake Snell off the mound, it's this team. That said, there is a very good projection and a clear ceiling beyond that projection. One of the highest ceilings on the board, if not the absolute highest ceiling on the board. Astros side of things, I do think you can go here. You're obviously taking up a contrarian position against Snell. I would have to imagine that they're not that popular despite his lack of popularity. Altuve, Jeremy Pena, Jordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker. So out of the top bats there, Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, and Tucker are probably our top priorities. Jeremy Pena, kind of a down season overall, 10 homers, 11 steals, 99 WRC plus. He's floating around relevance, so if you need a cheap bat to just directly tie into the power bats, he's fine, but he's not a priority by any means. Altuve is a superstar. 15 homers, 13 steals, 164 WRC plus, 316, 403, 555. One of the best players in all of baseball. I don't care what anybody says about trash cans or cheating or knowing the signals or anything like that from those years. He is a Hall of Fame track player, let's put it that way. He is phenomenal. I'm speaking this ebulliently about Jose Altuve because the last time I did this the other day, he went out and hit 3 home runs. Does he have that upside in him against Blake Snell? Probably not. But I'm trying to get some of these guys to go out there and ruin Blake Snell's day because I will have a little bit of Astros. Jordan, even for Snell's quality with limiting home runs, 11.78 in the home run model, 61, 4,000. Could be a little bit more expensive on FanDuel. A couple bucks more expensive on either side wouldn't be out of the question. 25 homers, a 281 ISO, 167 WRC plus. Bregman hits for power. Average is coming up a little bit. On base is terrific at 370. 29% better than average creating runs. Doesn't strike out at all. 12.7% strikeouts. 12.4% walk rate. All of these walks are problematic, and all of these low strikeouts are problematic for a guy like Blake Snell. But again, against lefties, the walk rate collectively 8.9%. That's very good. As a number, it does fall 12th in baseball, so around the middle of the league overall. But the top mark is 10.6, so it's not like they're far off the very top mark in baseball either. Kyle Tucker, immense power bat. Another guy, 13.2% strikeouts, 12.2% walks. When your strikeout rate and your walk rate are matched in the mid-teens, that is bad for the pitcher. 26 homers, 26 steals, a 140 WRC plus. Monster season from Kyle Tucker. Jose Abreu, hitting for power. Up to 14 home runs. 129 ISO, 81 WRC plus. There was a lot of bad early in the season. He's been a lot better over the last 6-8 weeks. Chas McCormick, still cheap, 45.35. Cheap on DK anyway. 289, 371, 527, 147 WRC plus. 20 dingers, 14 steals. Jainer Diaz, cheap at catcher. 43.29. It's got 21 home runs in 337 plate appearances. Kind of a star-making season almost. 255 ISO, 125 WRC plus. Fantastic contact, low strikeouts. Very low walk rate, but low strikeout rate. Puts the ball in play with a lot of authority. First base eligible on the DK slate if you want a different first baseman than Jose Abreu. Martin Maldonado got another late lineup home run the other night. He's up to 13 on the season. That's what you look to Martin Maldonado for. A little bit of a discount by 2,000 at the catcher spot. Since it's back-to-back in the lineup at the bottom of the lineup, if you wanted to tell me you were saving $2,000 by going to Martin Maldonado over Jainer Diaz in one Astros lineup, I wouldn't really call you crazy. That's a pretty significant savings for a not dissimilar bat. Or let me rephrase that. Jainer Diaz so far is a much better overall hitter, but a not dissimilar power bat. Late lineup catcher for cheap. On the Padres side of things, Hunter Brown projecting also pretty well on this side. Taking some bumps of late, not pitching quite as well as he was earlier in the season. Overall, 4.53 ERA, a 3.39 xFIP, 27% strikeout rate. Very good numbers from a rookie, especially the 3.39 xFIP lurking beneath the 4.53 ERA. That's a phenomenal number for a very young kid. 10.3% barrels, 44.3% hard hits, not ideal. Almost 91 miles an hour of exit velo, not ideal. 3.27% home runs because he keeps the ball down fairly effectively at 6.6 degree average launch. Has a limiting impact on the power output here. You obviously got some high projections around Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, as usual. Ha-Seong Kim in that group as well. Kim, 17 homers, 31 steals, a 121 WRC plus on the year. Phenomenal breakout season for him. 3,100 with triple position on FanDuel, 4,900 dual position on DK. My ear needs to pop, and I can hear an echo of myself in my ear. It's really not good for talking. Fernando Tatis, 59, 4,000. Full freight for a little bit of a dip in power output this year. 23 home runs, a 118 WRC plus. Still very, very good, but you're paying a tax for who he was 2 years ago. There it goes. You're paying a tax for who Fernando Tatis was 2 years ago when he was just an absolute super-duper star. He's definitely still a star-caliber hitter, I'm not arguing that he's not. But Juan Soto is better for 400 less on DK, 400 less on FanDuel. Tatis steals the occasional base. Juan Soto is better across the board in everything else. So I still don't understand that price discrepancy, and I think they should just flat reverse those prices. Those guys each deserve the other's price. Both of them are high priority bats in Padres stacks. Manny Machado up to 26 home runs, a 200 ISO, 111 WRC+. A little bit of a turnaround for Manny after a disappointing first half. Triple slash is still not where it should be, but the power's there. Xander Bogaerts also disappointing overall on the season, but pushed his way back up to 272. Hopefully we don't turn back around and dip back below 260 again, or 270 again. 16 homers, 14 steals, a 112 WRC+. Totally playable shortstop option. He's still very cheap at 47,300. Garrett Cooper, a little bit of righty pop, 2,624. 15 home runs on the season. Most of them came in Miami, but a capable enough bat late in the lineup as a sneaky playable part. Luis Campusano or Gary Sanchez, whoever we get, play them. Campusano delivering a better bat overall. Gary delivers tremendous power opportunities when he makes contact. Matthew Batten, 25-22. Okay output, 120 WRC plus in 59 plate appearances. Trent Grisham less so in 500 plate appearances. 91 WRC plus for Trent, only 12 homers, 13 steals, most of which he's had most of the season. Still does make surprisingly good contact for a guy with this output. This is another one where this contact doesn't necessarily equal what he's done at the plate. Oh, apologies, I forgot I didn't have the Padres confirmed lineup in. Kim, Tatis, Soto, Machado, Bogaerts, Campusano, Matt Carpenter in the lineup hitting 7th instead of, so no Garrett Cooper. You get Matt Carpenter. That's a downgrade, but they go with the lefty against the righty. Carpenter just not overly realistic. This will just show us his numbers, not change the projection. 174, 311, 304. Only 4 home runs, a 130 ISO this season. 10% barrels. 30.4% hard hits. Not great. Should have called well enough alone in that little outburst he had last year. Blake Snell, Astros bats. Hunter Brown, Padres bats. All 4 corners are in play. Gonna try and rocket through these at 6:12. we wandered our way through this one, gang. 2 hours and 15 minutes into the show. Shit. Griffin Canning, capable guy, 26.8% strikeout rate, 4.30 ERA, of 3.69 xFIP. We just talked about this one the other day. The Guardians are good at limiting strikeouts. It's about all they do well. Canning, 4.35% home runs is not ideal, 9.7% barrels, 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo, not ideal. There are a couple power bats drawing decent numbers, Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor particularly, but I think you could get some Cole Calhoun if you're stacking Guardians, and then you're kind of dealing with a mixed bag. I like Gabriel Arias for his power upside late in the lineup. 2,500 shortstop only on DK. 2,100 triple position on FanDuel, a lot more appealing. 9 home runs and 294 plate appearances, down to a 147 ISO, 81 WRC+, but can make premium contact. Also strikes out a ton, walks a little bit. Couple of walks, very low strikeout rates for Jose Ramirez, very low strikeout rate for Steven Kwan, but he's not getting on base enough. 99 WRC+, 338 on base, 5 homers, 18 steals. Ramirez is your top priority. Naylor's your second. 21 homers and 15 homers. Naylor, better triple slash overall. Better for run creation on the season at 126 WRC plus versus 119. Everybody else in the lineup is questionable. Jimenez has not given us what we wanted this season. He has okay counting stat output, 9% worse than average for run creation, not putting bat on ball all that well, but doesn't strike out very much. Ramon Laureano, outside the team theme in that he does strike out a bit and doesn't give you all that much back for the strikeouts. 8 home runs, 9 steals, 16% worse than average creating runs. If you're going to strike out at nearly 30%, you got to give me more than that. He's a mix and match piece at best if you're stacking Guardians. Brennan, Bo Naylor. Naylor's got a little bit of power at the bottom of the lineup. The other Naylor. They are brothers. 8 home runs in 176 plate appearances. Sneaky, cheap catcher. Not an ideal spot in the lineup, though. On the Angels side of things, going up against Logan Allen. 22.4% strikeout rate for Allen. 3.77 ERA with a 4.27 xFIP. A little bit up and down lately. 2 home runs, 4 earned runs, 7 hits with 5 strikeouts against the Rays the last time out. Homers in 3 straight games. A 5-run game against Toronto in the game before the Tampa game. So maybe hitting a bit of a rookie wall. He has thrown 112 in a third innings, made 21 starts in the show this year. He's been good. 3.77 ERA, 4.27 xFIP is good. Decent lefty going forward, but maybe not the best DFS play tonight. Doesn't project great, and he's not probably discounted where he should be. Still no Shohei Ohtani in the projected version of the lineup. I don't know. Did he go on the IL? I was out of pocket a couple days this week in terms of following baseball news. So not sure if they ended up putting him on the IL or if he's still just banged up, but not in the projected. Obviously, if you get Ohtani, if he's not on the IL, then that's a downgrade for Logan Allen, further downgrade for a pitcher we already don't want, and you play Ohtani. Nolan Schanuel off the top set an Angels record with hits in his first consecutive however many games it was. 75 plate appearances, 283, 427, 300, 114 WRC+. He's been terrific with the hit tool, drawing a 17.3% walk rate, exceeding his 13.3% strikeout rate so far. Excellent with the bat in his hands, very good eye at the plate. Hit the ground running, came out of college a few weeks ago. Brandon Drury, tons of righty power, 20 home runs at 222 ISO, 110 WRC+. Everybody else in this projected lineup, below average for run creation. You do have a few bats that I like. Randall Grichuk is an interesting enough bat. He has the ability to hit for average. He's definitely got a little bit of righty power. Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate, 3,300, 2,600, 6 home runs at 204 ISO in a limited 119 plate appearances because he got hurt just early on in the season, but can deliver power, 11.9% barrels, 46.4% hard hits. Throw him up there against the lefty if you're building Angel stacks. Eduardo Escobar, kind of a dead season for him. 6 home runs in 258, a lousy triple slash, 25% worse than average creating runs. Then you get into Wallach, Cabbage, Kyron Paris, Brett Phillips at the bottom of the lineup. Everybody basically at or around the Mendoza line. Everybody way below average for run creation. No power to speak of. Limited plate appearance samples. Brett Phillips, once upon a time, was a moderately high regarded prospect for like the 15 home runs, 25 steals type of a guy. How old is he now? Because this is what I need to be looking up at 620. He's now 29 years old. He's a never was type of a post type guy. Dead minimum on both sides if he plays. Griff Canning mixers, but he's not really priced correctly for that. So he's kind of just meh, given the 8,800, 9,300 of it. But you can mix him. It's just the limitations of strikeout upside. And then if he gives up any power and not while he's not racking up a bunch of strikeouts, you're in trouble. He has spiked a few high strikeout games, but this just isn't the ideal matchup for that. So Canning's just kind of a option at price. Where do they rank on the board? Where are the Angels? Yeah, pretty low end in terms of the Angel spot on the board. Cleveland jumps to 5th by projections today. Wow, I didn't notice that. 6th by home run value, 2nd and 4th by points per dollar. I guess we got to go with that. So pump the Guardians up a little bit. On the back of some power, I guess. Their ability to put the ball in play. That's interesting. I didn't realize they were projecting so well for me, even though I'm the one that put this tool together. So I'll go Guardians bats on top of the Angels bats. So it's probably, if we break it down, ultimately it's probably Canning, Guardians, Angels, and I really don't think we go to Logan Allen here, just from how he's projecting. Last game of the day. Thankfully. Rockies lineup is in. Neither of those lineups in that other game were in on labs anyway. And the Giants lineup's not in yet. But I referred to this one at the top of the show, and I'm glad we get to close out with it. One of my guys, Kyle Harrison, the hopes and dreams of my dynasty team and all San Francisco baseball, is riding on the back of Carlson. Well, more accurately, the left arm of Kyle Harrison. Their premium pitching prospect, one of the better pitching prospects in all of baseball. Came up, like I referred to before, his last time out was ugly. Last time out, 4 home runs allowed at San Diego, 5 2/3 innings, but they let him work through the 5 2/3. Ended up with 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, 6 earned runs with the 4 home runs. That's obviously a mess. But the fact that he went 5 2/3 is encouraging. In his middle start, he went 6 1/3 versus Cincinnati, hit an 11 strikeout game. That's your upside here against this Rockies team, if not beyond. If we get 6 innings out of this kid, this is probably one of he's right there with Senga and with Snell in terms of strikeout ceiling. The Rockies are inept against left-handed pitching. Against lefties this season, for all the numbers I read off before, the Colorado Rockies have a 54 WRC plus collectively against lefties this season. That means on the average, their average player is 46% worse than average for run creation in this split against lefties. They have a 135 ISO. They walk 6.7% of the time in the split, and they strike out as a team, as the active roster, the guys who are actively going to be involved in this game, at a 30% clip against lefties. The next highest strikeout rate against lefties is the Mariners at 26.9%. The next lowest WRC plus is the Guardians against lefties at 78. They're at 54. I said it weeks ago. Lefties against the Rockies was going to be a priority the rest of the way. This is the premium lefty that will probably get, well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure what their schedule is. This is a premium lefty. This isn't like, well, this guy is Wade Miley. He sucks, but he happens to be left-handed. This is a high-end kid. He's probably going to be popular. He's fairly priced. He's at a discount on FanDuel for his upside. He's probably going to draw a lot of raves around the industry. I'm going to go there regardless. Regardless of popularity, I want to have a lot of Kyle Harrison in this spot. Small sample, 32.8% strikeout rate, 4.70 ERA. Don't really care about most of these numbers at all. I just know who the kid is, and I know where the ceiling is. I don't really want any Rockies. If I have a massive share of Kyle Harrison, I'll grab a couple hedge stacks, but it's not a priority. Charlie Blackmon, okay, from the leadoff spot, lefty, mostly focused on getting on base, setting the table. Nolan Jones, their other lefty bat that's in the lineup. Ryan McMahon is out of the lineup, so you take their best power hitter out, but he's only their best power hitter against righties. McMahon inept against lefties. Nolan Jones is pretty decent so far in a small sample against same-handed pitching. 14 homers, 12 steals overall, 120 WRC plus. He's been their best player this season. 44-33 with not much support around him. I don't love it. Tovar's been pretty lousy, 74 WRC plus, 15 homers, 10 steals is fine. Decent counting stats. Elias Diaz, 268, 315, 415, 19% worse than average now creating runs. You're just homer hunting maybe if you go to him, but I don't really like that option that much. Brendan Rodgers is cheap for a guy at middle infield spot, second base on both sides. Cheap for a guy who does have power. 0 home runs this year in 109, but mid-teens the last two. Eleodis Montero, projectable minor league power. Only 6 homers, a 63 WRC plus and 220. Hunter Goodman has hit the ball well since he's come up. Only 35 plate appearances, 8.3% barrels, 37.5% hard hits. 0 homers so far, but a 113 WRC plus. Putting bat on ball effectively for a guy who did hit 34 homers this year in the minors is at least somewhat appealing. So he's kind of a high priority if I'm building out any Rocky stacks. Alan Trejo, Brenton Doyle at best mix-ins in a stack that I don't really want to go to. Very, very limited shares of Rockies. Giants against Ty Blach, I think you can go to here. Where did they rank? They don't rank great. Wow, that's weird. The Giants are so weird. They should be better than this. They should be better than this in this spot. Ty Blach, 4.33 ERA, a 5.10 xFIP, a pretty high whip despite a 6.4% walk rate. Doesn't strike anybody out with an 11.9%. Okay at limiting power. That's probably where some of the projections went. 2.98% home runs. 7.4% barrels allowed. Giants have been up and down. A lot of strikeouts in the lineup. They've been feeding some pretty good pitching performances to other pitchers. That's not going to happen here with Ty Blach, I wouldn't expect. 22.6 in terms of the value projection, though. At scale on the $5,200 DraftKings price, that's not the craziest thing in the world just to book the cheap price. Lefties have been getting these Giants for strikeouts. This is not the guy you want to do it with, but 24.6% strikeout rate against lefties with a 90 WRC plus, a 134 ISO as a unit. For a team that did at one point have a reputation of hitting lefties pretty well. Austin Slater gets the top spot against the Southpaw at 2,800, 2,200, 5 homers and 98 WRC plus this season. Tyler Estrada, 4,300, 3,000, 10 homers, 19 steals, a 101 WRC plus. Wilmer made his whole career off of hitting lefties for power. 21 home runs, highest total on this team overall this season. Having a very good year, 244 ISO, 138 WRC plus. Basically a half season, a little bit more than a half season with 388 plate appearances, but he's pretty cheap, 3,900, 2,800, 3 positions on FanDuel. Mitch Haniger, righty bat, 39 home runs 2 years ago when he was last fully healthy, only 4 this year in 181. JD Davis, really cool, 16 home runs, 103 WRC plus, got most of his production early in the season. Luis Matos, Casey Schmidt, Paul DeJong, Joey Bart, pretty limited options down lineup, everybody below average creating runs. Not that much power to speak of. Paul DeJong, Only 2,700, 2,400, does have 14 home runs. Everything else has been really limited, and he's striking out 31% of the time this year. So I don't love the option, but if you're homer hunting for a cheap price, or if you need a super cheap shortstop option with a little bit of upside, he's not off that board, but very limited options. Kyle Harrison with a bullet, one of my favorite plays of the day. It's got to be Giants bats next, and then maybe a couple mixers for value darts of Ty Blach, but not a great option there. And then really no Rockies for me. Last looks, guys. Home run board. It's Aaron Judge. Obviously, Stanton's not playing. Schwarber, Berger, Pete Alonso, a lot of the guys we talked about in those premium power spots. Jose Ramirez, though, the Cleveland bats, Ramirez and Josh Naylor, they were projected out better than I thought, and they're drawing a little bit of power, so maybe that's an interesting stack. Houston drawing a little bit of pop in Jordan Alvarez anyway. Boston drawing power. The Mets. Mets here. Mets here. Mets here. So some interesting spots. Not a tremendously deep situation. What do we have? 19 guys at or above the magic number, and Judge going 1.5 times the magic number, or 1.5 times on top again. Pretty good. Pitching board. Senga, Harrison, and probably Snell are my top 3 priorities, despite that he drops slightly below. There's no daylight between those, right? We know that Snell's got the higher ceiling, so I'm looking for the ceilings among these guys. But I like all these guys. Well, like is a strong word when it comes to Yusei Kikuchi, and I don't fully trust Elder, but he's at the right price for a guy who just limits things. He's more of a limiter than he is a high ceiling guy. Ceiling for Elder is not far beyond this projection, but he's fairly priced for that. Harrison is a major bargain on FanDuel and on DK, honestly, for where the ceiling is. Senga is correctly priced for the ceiling. Minor downside if they get him for power if they draw too many walks. Same story with Blake Snell. Montgomery and Brown, don't love both those options. Montgomery's a little high priced, but he's going up against Oakland. I don't really love the spot for Hunter Brown, despite how he projects at 91.86 going up against the Pods. Pods are capable enough. I know they haven't really been good, but there's just enough bats in there. He is good at checking power, keeping the ball on the ground, though, and he does have a decent strikeout number. Kikuchi against the Royals, definitely believable here. He's obviously got his flaws, but he's pitched fairly well this year, and it's somewhat believable. So I'll have some reluctantly. Chris Sanchez, a little bit of upside, 8,300, correctly priced against the Marlins. Emmett Sheehan, we're killing this one. Don't forget, I don't like this one at all. We resorted. He drops down the board a little bit. Just doesn't seem like he's going to pitch deep enough to support where the projection originally was. Griff Canning, believable. Jerry Perez, somewhat believable, going up against the Phillies with all these options above him for similar pricing. I don't love the Jerry Perez option. Just still lurks in the back of my mind that they're not going to let him go like 7. I think they're looking to cap his pitch count for the season. So I think there is a shorter ceiling than most starters. Mitch Keller, I don't really want to get a part of against Atlanta. It wouldn't knock me out of my chair if he had a good game. Paul Blackburn, I think, is playable against Texas, especially at 7,600 on DK. I don't love Bradish against Boston in Fenway, especially not at the FanDuel price, but also not really at the DK price. Logan Allen is playable at 88.84, but another guy that just kind of gets lost in the middle, not an extreme value price. With Sheehan coming off the board, Ty Blach might be your man at if you need the extreme value pitcher on the DK slate. Now the question is, how does it look with that Dodgers and whoever the hell it was stack if we use Ty Blach in that spot? Can I get a Blackburn? Oh no, one of those guys was coming from Texas, wasn't he? Can I get a block Sanchez? Kikuchi? Elder? Maybe. Probably not. Maybe. Kenzie Gore I don't like. Severino I don't like. Bottom of the board here is out of play, guys. It's basically 6:30. I gotta go. Might have to punch out of this tournament tonight. Good luck out there, gang. Go get them. Somebody go win something tonight. We will have football content coming tomorrow. There's content up on the site, but I mean show form for sure this time. Going to be up all night taking notes, writing up the Group Stacks article. Free main slate projections for Sunday are already up on the site. They're going to get updated tonight as well. NFL right now is totally free at rotoscouts. That'll change, but right now, totally free. Check it out. Good luck in baseball tonight. Go get them. Somebody go win something. See you tomorrow.